It's really dark, and they hear this terrible noise outside the tent. This terrible roaring noise. And the one bloke turns to the other bloke and he says, "Did you hear that?"
What?
They said, "Did you hear that?"
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was a lion. And the other bloke, he doesn't say anything. He just starts putting on his running shoes. And the other bloke turns to him and says, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a lion." The bloke turns to him and says, "I don't have to outrun the lion."
Don't get it.
He doesn't have to outrun the lion, only his friend. And then the lion catches up with his friend and eats him. The strong survive, the weak are killed. The law of the jungle.
Oh, yeah, very clever.
Yeah, it's very clever. You don't mind losing your friend. But what happens when the next lion turns up?
What next lion?
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
You've really gotten into pronouncing Doctor Who in a strange way. Who?
What's wrong with how I pronounced it? What's wrong with how I pronounced it? It's pronounced the
Yes,
exact
hello.
correct way.
I am Scott. Yes, hello. Or I am Hugh.
You are Scott,
I
allegedly.
should be Hugh.
No.
Okay.
This week we are not revisiting, but we are coming back to Classic Who. It's been a very brief moment since we last looked at Classic Who, covering... Oh god, what was the last Classic Who story we covered? We did it just very recently. My brain has turned into soup. God, has it been that long? I feel like we
Pyramids
just
of
did a Classic Who
Mars.
story.
Pyramids of Mars was the last one, right?
Pyramids of Mars. It
Or am I
must have
havering?
been. No, it must have been Pyramids of Mars, and then we did the Capaldi one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just about to check that now. Yeah, it was. It was Pyramids of Mars. So it's been about a month since we visited Classic Who. Apparently an extremely
Does
long...
Scream of Vishalka count as classic Doctor Who?
That's true.
No, it doesn't. It's a wilderness Who.
I did put it in the Classic Who playlist, so technically speaking, it does.
Do we
I
not
did
have
also
a-
put it in the Ninth Doctor playlist.
Do we not have a wilderness playlist?
We don't. No, we
We
have
should
Classic
have
New Who
one.
and spin-offs.
We should have one because we're planning on getting into the wilderness era quite a bit in the future.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Maybe I'll make one. But we are not looking at that at the moment. This week we are looking at survival. Survival of the fittest. Take a shot every time somebody says that in these episodes. Which were the final... It was the final story in all of Classic Who, and is 3 parts, is 20 minutes, is paced relatively well, and first aired on November 22nd, 1989, which was a Wednesday, which is really weird to think that supposedly the last ever episode of Doctor Who aired on a Wednesday.
Yeah, just
You
a
know?
random Wednesday,
Just
you know?
just halfway through the week. It's like no big deal. And it aired at the time of recording 34 years, 11 months, and 29 days ago. By the time this comes out, the 35th anniversary will have just happened recently, within a few days or so. And pretty cool that we're coming to the 35th anniversary of the show being cancelled for
This
the first time.
episode of the podcast comes out December 6th, which is the 35th anniversary of the final episode that airs. So,
Yeah.
coincidence? No, I planned it.
At the time, the United States president was one George H.W. Bush, and it was his first year in office, having been inaugurated on January 20th, 1989. And he was basically the follow-on president from Reagan, Reagan was in, yeah, because he was Ronald Reagan's vice president, and Ronald Reagan was so insanely popular that he won landslide victories in both terms, but obviously he's not eligible to go for a third term because the Constitution prevents that, and also he had dementia falling out of his ass. His brain was soup. So George H.W. Bush was kind of we'll continue on the legacy of Reagan, and he lasted a term before, of course, Saxophone Man was voted in.
You forget his name?
I did forget his name. Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Interesting fact about Bill Clinton, he is the only president in modern history to ever perfectly balance the budget. There was no over expenditure. There was no debt. It was the completely balanced budget. And if things continued on the way that he set out, America would have been debt-free by 2010. And then 9/11 happened, George Bush happened, the war in Afghanistan happened, and the 2008 financial crisis happened, and now all of that has gone away. So isn't that pretty cool?
9/11 is always cool. I'm going to take you out of context there and just pretend you actually are being serious.
You're
9/11
the
was
one
epic.
with the clip saying it. You're the one saying clip. You're the one. We'll not find a clip of me saying that. You're
Saying
the one
what?
that said that.
Saying what?
You know what you said. In the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister was Margaret Thatcher, who was deep into her third term as Prime Minister. And not long as well to be Prime Minister, soon to be outed as Prime Minister and replaced with John Major, I think was the Prime Minister. Did John
Sounds
Major
right.
ever be Prime Minister? No.
I feel like you're right. It was Major and
I know he was the...
Blair, right?
It was John Major, yeah, it was
Yeah.
John Major, who then lost to Blair, and then it was politics, In the world of the cinema, in the United States and the United Kingdom, there are two different movies. I would be incredibly impressed if you managed to guess any or either of them. I do have some clues written out to maybe guide you along the way, but we'll see.
Back to the Future is in my mind because you said Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, of course, gets name dropped in
The actor.
Back to the Future, yeah. And the final Back to the Future came out in 1989, but I don't know if it was... I believe it was a July release, but it could have been November in the UK. So I'm going to go with Back to the Future.
Back to the Future Part 2 was released... it was released on Tuesday, November 21st, and is not the number one movie at the box
my
office
God,
yet.
what the
It doesn't. It gets number one next week,
I was so close.
but it's just released. Yeah, that's the fact that is why I don't think you're going to be able to guess the United States one, because Back to the Future kind of overshadows any other releases because it was so big. But if you want to, maybe you've heard of the United States one, I don't know. It was written, directed, and starred one of the biggest comedy icons of the 1980s.
Of the 1980s.
There you go, that's a pretty... It's a really...
Eddie Murphy?
You've heard of... It is Eddie Murphy.
Okay. Golden Child.
No. I can give you another clue.
Uh-huh.
It's set in the 1930s Harlem and follows the drama and chaos surrounding a nightclub.
Oh, see, my Eddie Murphy knowledge isn't that high up. I presume it's more
It's
of
a
his
pretty deep
obscure one.
cut
yeah.
Eddie Murphy film, honestly. It's
he
a deep
did
cut.
I'm just going to guess movie titles. Was it Boomerang? He did Boomerang. Is it Boomerang?
It was not Boomerang. No. I have one final clue. It features a legendary cast, including a renowned comedian known for his roles in Brewster's Millions and Stir Crazy, as well as a sitcom icon famous for Sanford and Son.
Oh, so it's bloody... He has a name Fox in that name. Something
Yes,
Fox.
yes,
Or Fox.
Red Fox.
Red Fox, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I'd be amazed if you got it.
I'm not going to get this.
Yeah.
No, I'll maybe
the
know
film
the
is
title.
called the film is called Harlem Nights.
Okay.
It is a 1989 American crime comedy, starring, written, and directed by Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
Co-stars Richard Pryor, Red Fox in his last appearance before his death in 1991. Danny Aleo, Michael Lerner, Della Reese, and Murphy's older brother Charlie.
Rest
So
in peace.
that is interesting.
Rest
It's
in
Eddie
peace,
Murphy's
Charlie Murphy.
only directorial effort.
I presume it's a box office bomb then.
I don't know. It was number one at the box office. Despite having a strong opening, the $30 million film was a disappointment, grossing only $60 million in the United States and Canada. But it made its money back. It only had a budget of $30 million, so it doubled its money. So
Yeah, so
it was
that's-
kind of a success, just not as big of a blowout
Yeah,
as
so
projected. or
that's
whatever.
not really a profit. It's more like breaking even at that point.
Yeah, basically, because you've got marketing's like
Yeah.
the same cost as the budget, isn't it? So
And we only take a certain amount from theaters. I think it's like a half or 2/3, something like that, from the theaters. So, yeah.
yeah. But the brief plot synopsis for this: in 1918, Harlem, small-time gambling operator Sugar Ray is nearly killed by an irate, unlucky gambler until Ray's 7-year-old errand boy Vernest Brown shoots the gambler in the head. Learning that Vernest is an orphan, Ray decides to raise the boy as his son. So it sounds interesting enough. I don't know how well it's aged. I don't know if it's funny. I assume it's probably pretty bad. But, you know, it's a deep cut Eddie Murphy film. If you've ever an Eddie Murphy trivia night, you know. Now the UK film,
boy.
I would be even more stunned if you guessed it, because like the poster for this film looks like an advertisement for orange juice. So, like,
Who's in the
I have
cast?
some
I mean, I need to know.
I have some clues for you.
Okay.
The film is based on a play by Willie Russell and focuses on a middle-aged woman rediscovering herself.
Okay, so it's a chick flick then.
Kind of. I would
Kind
guess
of?
maybe kind of like a chick flick.
Oh.
It's a it's romantic comedy. It takes her from the streets of Liverpool to the sun-drenched beaches of Greece.
Okay, so it's a British film then.
It is British. Yes, it is
Okay,
British.
then-
The
then-
title of the
I
The-
have no idea then.
yeah, I would be amazed if you got it. It is. Give me 2 seconds. I want to pull up the actual poster onto my camera, because it is ridiculous how this fucking thing looks. Hang on. There's two of me there. Oh my god, multiple me's. There we go. Hang on. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Look at this. Look at this poster. Hang on. Doesn't this just look like an advert for orange juice?
Okay, yeah.
Th-
That is a 1980s British film poster for sure. It's just,
Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Where's my camera? Okay, we're
Shirley
back.
Valentine.
Shirley Valentine. Oh, you guessed it. Well done. Shirley Valentine is a 1989 British romantic comedy directed by Lewis Gilbert, with a screenplay by Willie Russell, based on one character play of the same title, which follows middle-aged Shirley Valentine in an unexpected discovery of herself and the rekindling of her childhood dreams and youthful love of life. It's a rom-com for 40-year-old mums,
Yeah.
basically. You know, it's whatever. But it was number one at the box office in the UK. But that is not all I have for On This Day, Scott. I also have some notable events from 1989. Some interesting little factoids that were going on. Because 1989 is kind of a big year in history. And just weeks prior to this episode airing, on November 9th, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Which was, you know, most famous, I think, for Knight Rider singing at them. What's his name? Hoffman?
Dustin
Oh, no, not
Hoffman.
Hoffman.
No.
It wasn't Dustin
Da-
Hoffman.
David
It would be amazing if it was Dustin Hoffman.
David-
David Hasselhoff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, David Hasselhoff and Dustin Hoffman were singing as the Berlin Wall fell, which obviously symbolized the end of the Cold War and led to the reunification of Germany. And to me, not understanding a lot of jokes as a kid, when I would watch stuff from the 80s, and it was like West Germany and East Germany, and as a kid, I'm like, what does that mean? What's that on about? Because I've never lived in a world where the Berlin Wall existed.
Yeah.
Also in 1989, on December 17th, so not long after
The
Doctor Who
Simpsons.
finished,
I was going
The
to bring this up as
Simpsons-
well. Yeah.
yeah, The Simpsons premieres, introducing audiences to the quirky world of Springfield. And I'm currently on season 14 of The Simpsons, and gosh, is it bad. It's really not good.
It's a good thing you only have 21 seasons left.
There's some episodes in 14 that are pretty fun. Special Edna, which was an episode I was
The
expecting
one
to
they go
hate.
to Epcot, is that right?
Yes.
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 I
I was
liked that
expecting
episode.
to not. I was in stitches that entire episode. It's the most I've laughed at a Simpsons episode in many seasons since watching the show. But then some episodes of season 14 kind of stuck. Season 13 was a highlight for me, but seasons 1 to 10, you just can't beat it. It's been said a million times, and it's just because it's a simple fact. They're just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, Doctor Who is probably my number 2 show in terms of most important to my life. The Simpsons is number 1. The Simpsons is just, it's always been there for me. I've watched it since I was 2 days old. It's always been a part of my life. Love The Simpsons. It's crazy to think how close they were together, Doctor Who and The Simpsons.
It's amazing. You could go if you were a kid in this period, you could be like, "Oh my God, they're canceling Doctor Who. It's over," and then have a brand new favorite show immediately afterwards. Where it's like, "Oh, Doctor Who's gone, but Simpsons is here now. It's okay."
Crazy.
Also, other things that happened in 1989, the World Wide Web was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, which laid the foundations for the internet today. The Nintendo Game Boy also got released in 1989. Absolutely classic handheld. I always had the Game Boy Advance SP, though, because that was, the era that we grew up in.
I didn't have the Game Boy Advance SP, but I had a Nintendo DS, which had the Game Boy Advance
DS
cartridge at the bottom, which... good times. Remember when you used to be able to play 2 consoles in one console? Great times.
Yeah, it was superb. We had many Game Boys when I was a kid, and then eventually we all got DSs, and then of course, did your DS? I feel like it happened to everybody. The hinge just broke.
Yes.
I
I
never
actually
had that problem with the Game Boy.
I actually had it. I actually had my original DS up until 2 or 3 years ago. With the hinge broken as well. It still worked completely fine. It was just broken, which I'm surprised. I had that since 2006. So that's
Jesus. Yeah.
So that
that's
lasted a
crazy.
long time. I just decided to throw it out because I didn't really play the DS anymore, and I had a 3DS at the time as well. So I was like, might as well just use the 3DS,
3DS was a good time. I liked the 3DS a lot. I was a big fan of that one. But that is all I've got for on this day in history in 1989. A pretty important year for us all. My favorite year ever. So there you go.
Your favorite year ever. You weren't even born,
Ever.
but your favorite year.
It was the best one. Best one.
Wow, let's go into Survival, which was written by Rona Munro, who... I want you to cheer for this one, because this one is pretty cool. She was born in Aberdeen, 1958.
Hell yeah.
She mostly grew up in the Stonehaven area, which I haven't been to in a long time. Have you been to Stonehaven in a while?
Same. I've been through it a lot. I've not really been in it. I've been around it actually more than I've been through it. I always, if I'm heading down south or whatever, I'll be like, oh, there's Stonehaven over there. Not go into it though. Just
Yeah,
go around.
I haven't been there since I was a kid, but yeah, she was born in Aberdeen, which is pretty fucking cool. One of the only Aberdeen writers, probably the only Aberdeen writer, but really fucking cool. Aberdeen doesn't get enough representation in Doctor Who.
We had that one episode with Capaldi, and it's also where Sarah Jane gets left. So that's two things.
The episode of Capaldi was written by Rona Munro. She returned to the show what is the difference between 1989 and 2017? I want to say 28 years. Am I right?
I can't do maths in my head right now.
9,
What was the years?
28
2017.
years, 1989 and 2017. 28 years, which
Yeah,
is insane for
28 years.
the difference between your first and second episode. Insane.
Yeah.
Her parents were a geologist and a radiotherapist, so really smart parents. Like,
Yeah.
her first television writing before this aired was in 1989 in April. It was a screening of her play Biting the Hands on BBC One, and it had a young David Tennant, whoever the fuck that is, in a very minor
That guy's
role.
everywhere. That
He
dude's
really
everywhere.
is. You look, that guy has been around for such a long time. In 2005, you'd think, oh, this guy is brand new to acting. This is his first television show or something.
Yeah.
But
Well,
he'd
just
been
in
around.
everything.
It's insane.
Might as well be born inside the BBC.
So Rona Munro is the first female writer since Attack of the Cybermen, which was in 1984. 5 years between female writers. Depressing. Fucking
Not
depressing.
long enough.
McCoy was very excited to perform with a woman's script, which, good on him. You know, like I would say most male actors would be kind of upset, but to perform a woman's script, I feel like, because
Depends on the era.
yeah,
But yeah.
So she met Andrew Cartmel, who was the script editor at the time on the show, when BBC Scotland sent her on a training course. Andrew was one of the writers who actually spoke to the group on this training course, and most people went up to Andrew Cartmel being like, oh, I really want to get my play produced at the BBC. But Rona Munro was the only person to be like, I really fucking want to write for Doctor Who. I've been a fan of the show since I was like 2 years old. I just really want to get into it. And obviously, she got into it. The final episode, which is sad.
Yeah, get right in there, right at the end. It's done now. But also, big honor to be able to do the last episode of such an iconic show.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, she was asked to submit a Doctor Who treatment. She submitted them, and then she immediately got hired, which... It sounds fucking easy to get a job in television in the 80s. Like, you just basically have to
be like, I want a job. And they'd
Yeah.
be like, okay. What do you want to do? You want to be in charge of everything? Awesome. There you go.
yeah, we'll happily look at your script and just hire you on
Yeah.
the spot, basically. Like, that
Yeah.
would never fucking happen these days.
No.
She did feel a bit bad that her story wound up being the last. She felt like the fans would hate her because the final story wasn't a proper conclusion written by someone who had written for the show before. So it was like, as understandably, you're not even sure, you're not even aware you're writing for the final episode of the show. So you don't think, this is the final episode, I need to conclude the characters. It's just a normal episode, which is quite sad.
Yeah. It is, but I also think the ending's very strong. Like, it's how I think the show should end. Of just, there's no big, they don't save the universe or anything. They have an adventure and they go off to have more adventures.
Yeah, that's a inclusion. We'll get to that, but that's an inclusion by Andrew Cartmel, the script editor. She was out of the country at the time, and they just presumed, hey, the show might not come back, so let's write some sort of a conclusion that leaves it open-ended, but can also be satisfying as a conclusion, which is perfect. You know,
Smart.
Doctor Who is a show that's designed to go on forever and ever. Might as well make it open-ended. After this, she did Casualty, whose script editor at the time was Andrew Cartmel, so she's still working on television. She doesn't really work in television much. She's mostly like a really important playwright. She's won several awards for plays like Bold Girls in 1990 and the James plays in 2014. She's written like 30 to 40 plays in the last 40 years.
Damn.
It's insane. I'm not much of a play guy.
I was about to say, I kind of wish I cared about plays more. I don't really care about them.
My biggest hurdle in going to plays is I'm a really tall guy, and most theaters are like really pack you in like sardines. You know, the seats are
That's
so
because
close
they're from
together.
like 300 years ago. Yeah, when everyone was tiny.
So it's always a gamble of, if I go to see a play, am I going to feel my legs for the next 2.5 hours? Are my legs just going to be in absolute agony? Am I able to get home at the end of the night because my legs are just broken?
See, for me, the problem is location. I'm not in a. I don't live in a spot where culture resides.
Yeah.
I live in a spot where culture comes to die. So like I can't. If I wanted to go to the theater, it's like a big expense because it's
Yes.
not only theater tickets. I also have to get like bus tickets and hotel tickets. And
Yeah.
it suddenly becomes into like a big thing. So it's got to be worth going to. So most of the time, it's not worth going to. You know.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, especially like Scotland is just, there's so many areas where it's just empty, you know?
So cut off. Yeah. Nothing. Wasted space.
Yeah. She did wind up going back to Doctor Who in 2017 for Eaters of Light. Moffat introduced her at the table read, warning the cast that the show might be cancelled soon again because of her. You know, we're bringing back this lady who killed the show last time, so let's cross our fingers.
And it's Eaters of Light. I watched it recently. Why did I watch it recently? I don't remember, but I saw that
God
episode
knows.
relatively recently.
Eaters of
pretty bad.
Light. Eaters of Light is still the only new Who episode I have never seen.
Insane. Insane.
It's because I was busy that Saturday or for some reason, and I then forgot about the episode entirely because I read about it on Twitter. Everybody was like, "Oh, this episode was kind of shit." So I was like, "There's no real rush to get to the episode." And then all of a sudden, I remembered the episode existed like 5 minutes before the next episode was aired, and I was like, I'd rather watch tonight's episode because it has the Cyberman in it and it has Missy in it. I'd be more interested in watching that instead of trying to catch up on last week's mid-episode.
It's a weird one. You've got like the thing I remember most about it is there's crows. And all the crows, like, they go like caw caw because they're crows, but they're not. They're doing that because they're like a character whose name is Caw, and it's their way of remembering her or honoring her because she like sacrifices herself for some reason. And so whenever you hear a crow saying "caw," you're supposed to think of this lady that died for whatever. It was a really weird ending. That was like, okay, dumb, but yeah, it was. I remember it not being great, but not being like terrible. It's like a super mid episode, in a relatively. It's like sandwiched between pretty good episodes. I remember, isn't it?
Yeah, it's yeah, I can't remember what episode came before it, but it's the one directly before
out.
World Enough at Time, which is like one of the best. It's the best Capaldi episode, World Enough in Time.
Yeah.
Like holy shit, what an episode! I'll let you
What was it
find
called? What's this episode called?
Eaters of Light.
Eaters of Light. Yeah, it's just after Empress of Mars, and then after Empress of Mars and before World Enough in Time. Empress of Mars is also kind of mid, but
Yeah, I don't remember that one too well. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's definitely the lower end of Series 10, but Series 10 is such a banger of a season.
Yeah.
You know, it's so goddamn good. So being the worst of the best is not a terrible place to be.
But yeah, she's mainly written for plays, which, yeah, she's a super successful woman, probably like the most successful playwright from Aberdeen, I would imagine. But I just know nothing about her because I know nothing about plays. I'm sorry.
Yeah, uncultured. Sorry. No culture here.
So one of the working titles for this episode was Cat Flap, which is based on Rona Munro being aware that the cat flap in her home can bring anything of the right size, including anything unwelcome or nasty. So that's, you know, the idea of a cheetah people going back and forth through our world is kind of like a cat flap, you know. It's a decent title, but the Andrew Cartmel, the script editor at the time, thought most people hate when the titles are kind of bad like that. Not bad, but it's like there's a perception you'd have with a title like Cat Flap, like, oh, this is a kid's title. You know, there was an episode called Happiness Patrol, which was a satire about Margaret Thatcher's Britain at the time. and people hated that episode purely because of the title Happiness Patrol. So they thought,
I feel like that's a very off its time thing, because I feel like you can get away with episodes titled that these days, and
Yeah.
people are more open to the idea. Like if an episode was titled Happiness Patrol, I'd be like, okay, that sounds cool. I'm on board, you know.
yeah, it's interesting to hear like complaints about Doctor Who in the 80s, like just little things like that. Because you know, Doctor Who fans are always complaining about something. You know, that's what we do on this channel.
Yeah, no, people hate Doctor Who if they watch it. It's the only place to be.
And I think the title Cat Flap is interesting because the very next episode, not counting the TV movie, is Rose. And one of the second time the Doctor interacts with Rose is through a cat flap, which is really interesting.
Sure, yeah.
There's a lot of Rose parallels in this episode, I must say.
I'll have to think about that watching it again. I didn't pick up any Rose parallels when I was watching it, but we'll see. I was mostly focused on, like when you're watching it, you'll see Ace's is like a walking echo. She'll say a line of dialogue and then say the exact same line of dialogue again, but in a slightly different way in almost every single scene. She does it right at the start.
Okay, I did not notice this. I guess I'll be tuned in on that. So, of course, this is the final story of classic Doctor Who. This is the big ending of the show. It was the penultimate story to be filmed. The last story was filmed. It was Ghostlight. And Sylvester and Sophie really wanted to stay on for another series after this. Which is, you know, it's quite sad that we never got to have a proper conclusion. I guess Sylvester got a proper conclusion, but not really. You know, it's kind of like an awkward conclusion for Sylvester.
He it's not, I don't know, I kind of like the conclusion for him in the movie just because it's so sudden and violent, but it's maybe not like the most thematic way his character could have gone out, you know. It's rather unceremonious, but you know, it's at least we saw him regenerate. At least he gets a regeneration.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just done off screen.
Sorry, there's somebody hoovering next door.
No.
Peter Craigreen was the controller of BBC One at this time, and he's the man who was responsible for cancelling Doctor Who. It almost got cancelled in 1985, but it was instead put on an 18-month hiatus and returned with 14 episodes instead of the usual 26. So it got cut in half, which was the beginning of the end for the show, sadly. Which, you know, we just went through the same thing. The show just basically got cut in half recently. It went from 13 episodes and it went from a usual 13 to 10, and now it's at 8, which is not enough, I would say.
Just going down and down. But the episodes numbers going down and the quality's going with it. You know, you'd kind of hope that with less episodes there'd be more focus.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to really be what's going on. You know, even with Flux was a nightmare, and then this latest series was a nightmare, and it's a bad show. Just cancel it again.
The problem is with 8 episodes, they kind of want to serialize the show, but also do an episodic format, which is kind of a nightmare with 8 episodes, because that means it's just so awkward. It's so awkward.
I just make it just serial. Like the thing that Flux did right was the idea of serializing it, because it made it way more interesting to watch. You like, because even if it was trash, like Flux is terrible, but you didn't really figure that out till the end. You know.
but the magic of Doctor Who is these self-contained adventures.
Yeah.
Occasionally we'll get serialization, but we'll find out how series 2 or season 2 does.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I'm kind of pessimistic about it, but we'll see.
But yeah, one of the reasons why the show got cancelled was because it got moved to a Wednesday slot of 7:30, which was, of course, directly opposite Coronation Street. And if you lived in the households in Britain between like 1980 to 2006, let's say, your mum would be watching Coronation Street. And in 1989, you probably don't have a TV in your bedroom or whatever, which means you're not getting to watch Doctor Who. There's no videotapes, and because of this, you're just not getting to watch Doctor Who ever again, which is quite sad.
That's tragic. Yeah, but The Simpsons is there, so it's fine. You'll get that as a replacement.
Only if you have Sky, because Sky got The Simpsons in 1990, whereas the BBC only got The Simpsons in 1996, which is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
God,
that's tough.
I remember one of the big things about Sky back in the day was the fact it had The Simpsons, and The Simpsons was on multiple times a day, whereas only on BBC Two it was only once a day. Sky was so exciting to me as a kid because of The Simpsons.
When did The Simpsons come on Channel 4?
2004.
Yeah, I know The Simpsons from like when I think of Simpsons in my childhood, I think Channel 4. That's when I did most of my Simpsons watching, was when it was on Channel 4. But because we had Sky very briefly when I was a kid. We didn't have it for very long, so I never really associate Simpsons with Sky. Associate like trash with Sky. Terrible service.
Especially nowadays, Sky is just so overpriced. Jesus Christ. Especially because it's like mainly repeats. Every channel is just repeats after repeats. Like Comedy Central is just 9 hours of Friends a day.
I'm amazed it's even like still a thing, really, because like Now TV, which is just Sky, is their streaming service, and it's like £10 a month for the TV shows. It's insanely cheaper than paying like £150 for the Skybox or whatever.
It's £10 a month for the TV shows, but if you want to watch it in HD, you have to get an extra £10 a month, which is fucking insane.
I think
Fucking
it's like
insanity.
£10 for the HD and streaming, because I pay for Now TV at the minute.
Or
watch,
is it
like,
4K?
Sopranos.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Sopranos.
it could be 4K, but yeah, the pricing for it is pretty what's the word, like predatory, like they're trying to get you for every little penny you've got, and it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, terrible service. Sky is really terrible. I hate
Honestly,
it.
I was thinking about it. I think the only streaming service I pay for that I genuinely think is worth the money is YouTube Premium.
Okay.
But legitimately, I don't think any other streaming service I use can really justify the price, because I don't really use them as often. Like, I maybe go on like 2-3 times a month. Netflix maybe a bit more than that. I'm on YouTube every single day, watching hours of content and getting 0 ads. It is bliss. The second I load up YouTube and I'm on the wrong account and an ad plays, I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is happening?
Well, for me, I just use AdBlock. I know that's terrible for the creators, but I just use AdBlock. I'm sorry. Some people think that the cancellation of Doctor Who was due to American imports being very successful, like Star Trek: The Next Generation. And of course, Doctor Who could never compete with Star Trek because the BBC just weren't prepared to put in the same kind of budget, which is really sad. And also some people think that the BBC just hated science fiction because they were highly educated snobs. Like, between 1990 and 2000, there was no science fiction programs at the BBC, which
tragic.
Fucking sad.
Yeah.
And, some people just think the show was just an embarrassment to the BBC. It was past its prime. And watching this, I would say Doctor Who was fairly getting back. This is Doctor Who coming back to its prime, I would say. This is a really solid episode.
But I feel like the damage was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because we have seen previous seasons prior to this one, and it's rough. It is rough. It is pretty bad, honestly. And so, like, it's just too little too late, you know? It's by the time this was coming out, most people already checked out. Most people were just like, Doctor Who is bad, not giving it another chance, Which is kind of what you see a lot with Doctor Who these days as well.
Yeah, it's the same thing you see with The Simpsons. Bring it back to The Simpsons. Like, some people occasionally watch an episode here and there, and they're like, "Oh, The Simpsons is fucking good again. Let's watch it." And then they don't watch again for like another 2 years.
Yeah, but The Simpsons just keeps going. There's nothing that's gonna ever stop that, apparently.
Yeah, even the fucking retirement of Pamela Haydenson. Is that her name? She just retired today as we're recording. She's the voice of Millhouse, and she's like, "I'm fucking retiring. Bye." Which is really fucking sad to hear one of the not the main character, but Millhouse was a big character.
I mean,
at this
point, like, everyone in Springfield's a main character. I'm sure there's not they're hard pressed to find a character that's not had their own dedicated story, if not multiple. But Millhouse is iconic for sure.
Oh yeah,
I have a T-shirt with Millhouse on it.
I really do wonder what we're going to do with Millhouse now. Is he going to move away or get replaced?
Recast, yeah.
It's not going to be the same.
I don't know. They don't often recast in Simpsons either.
They recast Martin
did
Prince.
Did they do a poo? And then they just
they didn't recast a poo.
No, they just got rid of him.
They did recast Martin Prince because Lucy Taylor, who did the voice for him, died. She was like 89. She was also the voice of Minnie Mouse, which is very interesting. Wow. But yeah, Martin Prince got replaced. I'm not sure if Millhouse will be replaced, but if you don't replace these characters, then Springfield is going to feel fucking empty.
Yeah.
But back to Doctor Who. The show was never officially cancelled. The BBC just kept on saying they wanted to put it on hiatus, or they would reformat the show, or they were trying to find another company to co-produce the show. We talked about this in the past. If you go back to our Dimensions in Time episode, we spent most of that episode just talking about the period between 1989 and 1993 of the show, which was a really good discussion. I really liked that discussion. Really good episode, Dimensions in Time.
Yeah, it's a classic.
So they did have some plans for season 27 of the show, but it was only a vague outline, because by the end of this they thought, hey, the show might not come back. Let's not put too much work into the next season, and they were right not to, because obviously the show didn't come back for another 16 years, essentially, which is incredible to think about. 16 years.
It's crazy. It's like a whole childhood,
But you think of 16 years being a long time as a kid. If you hear in 2005 you're like 6 years old, 16 years sounds like a lifetime. But now it's been 20 years almost since Doctor Who came back in 2005. Blink of an eye.
Yeah, it goes quick, doesn't it?
Fucking crazy. But over the last few seasons with Sylvester McCoy, they had been really building up a more darker and mysterious edge to the Doctor. They were building up his backstory to be like he's a godlike figure, essentially. He was there on Gallifrey at the very beginning, and there was 3 people who were involved with time travel: Omega, Rassilon, and the other. The other, of course, being Doctor Who himself. So remember when we did Remembrance of the Daleks, it's where Ace and the Doctor are sitting on the stairs and they're having this conversation about time travel, and the Doctor is like, oh, we didn't quite get it right. And Ace was like, what do you mean we? I mean, they didn't get it right, the Doctor replies. So they were trying to build up to the Doctor being this godlike creature who was there at the origin of Gallifrey, which Chris Chibnall would eventually do. And we all agree that Chris Chibnall... I don't think Chris Chibnall did it right. John Nathan Turner didn't like the Doctor being godlike, so I don't think we would ever get to this point in the show of it being explicitly stated that the Doctor was there at the very beginning of Gallifrey. I think the idea of just the Doctor being a normal guy who escapes Gallifrey is a lot better, because the Doctor is godlike enough as it is. Don't make him more godlike.
I go back and forth on that in my head all the time because like I like the idea of the Doctor just being like a scientist traveling around and whatnot, but at the same time I kind of like the idea of this deity traveling the universe to experience the culture and like the world and what life is, and enjoy the vibrant, like I think that that's a fascinating concept, so I can kind of get on board with both. But definitely as like a teenager and like when I was a bit more of a volatile Doctor Who fan, it was, the Doctor is from Gallifrey. There are set rules and there is set. It's the interesting thing I think with Doctor Who fans is we love rules, because we like time travel and we like weird high concept stuff, and that's all got rules. So it's got to be like, okay, there has to be structure to this. There has to be reasoning behind it, and there has to be like you can't change what we've set out beforehand. But also Doctor Who's the show that absolutely does that every chance it gets. So it's a constant back and forth,
Doctor Who, we've said this before, but it's an absolutely insane show to describe to people. Like, it's so simple in terms of just, it's an alien who travels around with a young companion, and we go around different planets and different time periods. But also, the lore of the show just does not make sense in any fucking way.
Yeah, absolutely nothing makes sense in it, but that's kind of like the charm, because it kind of makes sense, and it kind of knows it doesn't make sense.
So another idea for season 27 was to explore the idea of the Time Lords a little bit more. This was an idea made up by Mark Platt, which explored the idea of Time Lords being created by looms, which were breeding engine devices, and they were made because Time Lords couldn't produce sexually. The looms mean that all Time Lords are essentially cousins, and this eventually turned into a book called Lungbarrow, which was hugely controversial at the time because it changed Doctor Who's canon and lore. So this book is hugely controversial. It's insane.
Interesting.
Which I still need to read Doctor Who books. I hear the 1990s books are fucking insane. Like, they were made for people who grew up with Doctor Who, so like mid-20s to like mid-40s, instead of like for a general family audiences. Like, these books were like, there's people who have sex in it. Like the Eighth Doctor in his very first book, the Eighth Doctor goes to jail because he's accidentally picked up some cocaine. It's insane.
Yeah, you can get away with more in a book than you can in most other things.
So there were 3 ideas for season 27 episodes kicking around, and I'll go through them one by one. There's not much to talk about because, again, these were in the very, very early stages of development. So the first episode would have been called Earth-Aid, or War-World. And this was going to be written by Ben Aronovich, who wrote Remembrance of the Daleks, which we both really fucking enjoyed when we watched it last year. Great story. This was going to be about a race of samurai insect aliens who could only slaughter people if those people had weapons. So there was like some kind of condition in their brain where they couldn't attack people unless they had a weapon. So they'd be spending the entire story trying to give people weapons so they could kill these people. Which sounds like a fun idea. I'd be on board for this idea.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
So apparently this episode was going to be a commentary on food aid and how food aid isn't as beneficial as you think it is. It would have opened up on a spaceship that has Ace pretending to be its captain, and nothing more was written other than the opening of the story and just like the basic idea of the aliens. But I'd be on board, it sounds interesting. The next story number 2, was going to be called Ice Time by Mark Platt. And this would be set in the late 60s London with the Ice Warriors as his main villain. And it was considered that it would have been the episode to write Ace out of the show. And there were plans that Ace was going to go to Gallifrey and train to become a Time Lord in her final story. which would have been interesting because the last 2 seasons were about the Doctor trying to educate Ace everywhere they go, which turning her into a time lady would have been interesting, I would think.
Yes. I mean, we've kind of seen something similar happen with like Clara, didn't we? Where, you know, it's the end of her story. She gets like a TARDIS and can travel
True.
around as essentially a time lady, you know.
There's also Leela who winds up in Gallifrey. We haven't met Leela yet. There's so many classic companions we just have not covered, and we've almost been doing this show for 3.5 years at this
There's
point.
too many. There's too
It's
many
insane.
classic Who companions. That's why they just churned them out. Like,
So the third story of season 27 would have been the story where they replace Ace with an upper-class woman whose father was a successful gangster who had now turned straight. And this woman would have been a cat burglar like Lady Christina from the Easter special Planet of the Dead. We would open up the third story of the season at the fancy garden party where she goes upstairs and cracks a safe. And inside the safe would be Sylvester McCoy saying, "What took you so long?" And that's all they had for the third story. a cat burglar companion sounds like an interesting change of pace for the show, rather than just another generic woman from modern London who screams a lot, like we did in Classic Who all the fucking time.
yeah, that is true. You could also do a lot with like, you know, getting like it opens up a lot more plot stuff if you have to do a heist or you have a character like she steals something that she's not supposed to steal, or you know they go to an alien world, and like it opens up a lot of new ideas for plots that you wouldn't get with other companions, you know.
And also the idea of the replacement of Ace going to be another strong female companion is pretty decent, you know, because
Yeah.
most of Classic Who is just the woman who needs to be saved constantly, or the woman who is constantly ogled by the camera because she's in short skirts, you know, or tight tops like Perry.
For the dots. For the dots.
But yeah, that was going to be season 27. It's kind of sad it never got made, but hey, what are you going to do? You want to jump into Survival because that's all I have.
I guess so. We are gonna jump into Survival. We're covering all 3 parts in this episode.
Going to be a long one. Strap yourselves in.
But we are gonna jump into part 1 right now.
I'd already beaten Sarge.
Oh, you think I'm too hard, do you? Pushing you too hard, am I? Have you ever heard of survival of the fittest, son? Hey, you ever heard of that? Life's not a game, son. I mean, I'm teaching you the art of survival. I'm teaching you to fight back. What happens when life starts pushing you around, son, eh? What are you going to do then? That's better. You're right now, eh? You're right.
All right, Sarge.
Good. Off you go then.
Survival of the fittest. Rather a glib generalisation, don't you think? Survival for what, Mr.
Sergeant Patterson, you show me a better way of surviving and I'll give it a go.
So, our adventure into Survival begins with the intro credits, which we've talked about Sylvester McCoy's intro credits before. I think they're fine. I'm not... the song, I think, is fine. And a little bit on the whiny side, kind of like the Capaldi song, where it's like maybe a key too high or so, but it's fine for what it is. The graphics are horrendous, but
Well,
kind of a vibe.
you know, it's 1987, early CGI on a TV budget. It's not going to look great, but for the time, this intro must have been groundbreaking for the time, you know.
I don't know. In
Like,
1980, when it first
what other
when it
TV
first
intro
debuted-
looked like this at the time?
Well, when it first debuted in 87, maybe, but 89 was also when Next Gen started, or around the time Next Gen
87.
started. That was 87 Next Gen.
Yeah.
The intro credits for Next Gen. I know the budget's way bigger, but the intro for Next Gen is stunning, absolutely stunning, and holds up. You know, like that looks like a real starship. It doesn't look like a real TARDIS. The intro credits here.
But, you know, this is British television. You're not going to
Yes.
get much better CGI. This is pretty decent for 1987.
Yeah, but then we get into the episode proper with a man washing his car, who his mother tells him his dinner's
I
ready, which
guess.
I thought was really interesting because this guy looks about 45. But he
yeah.
says thanks, mum. So some economic hardships maybe.
But yeah, this is Perryville, and it's actually shot in Perryville, which might sound like, oh yeah, of course it's going to be shot in Perryville. But, whenever you're shooting in an actual location, it's never the actual location. Like, most of Doctor Who is set in London, but most of it is fucking shot in Cardiff, But just the fact that it's actually shot in Perryville, quite interesting, You just never get that on television.
I didn't even know it was a real village. I'll be honest. I didn't know it was a town or whatever.
Neither do
just
I.
assumed they made it up.
It's somewhere in London. That's all I fucking know. London's a fucking massive place, so.
It's very big. Yes, it is very big. But this man is washing his car, and it is the last thing he'll do as we see a weird-looking cat in a nearby tree that is a terrifying fake puppet cat. And this terrifying fake puppet cat reappears throughout multiple episodes.
Yeah.
And it's not a great-looking puppet, but it's just on the right side of creepy that it gets away with it. It is horrifying.
What they did, they hired a guy who did a very convincing puppet dog on another TV show, but this TV show was a sitcom or a sketch show, and it was like a talking dog. And dogs are easy to control because you can just puppet the head and basically do anything you want with it. But when
Have you
we
ever
did,
seen the puppet with the dog that beats up the dude?
what?
I'll find the clip. It'll make more sense. I'll find the clip.
Well, when this guy was hired to do the cat, he was like, yeah, it's going to be easy. I just did it with this dog. But when he made the cat, he realized, oh shit, the cat's head is much smaller than a dog. I can't physically get my hand inside the cat's head. So instead, it's kind of like remote controlled, and the remote control is kind of like jerky, and we decided, no, we can't keep using this animatronic cat. We need a real cat for certain shots, and the real cat fucking didn't want to do its job because never fucking work with animals. Animals are just the worst actors.
Well, wait till you see this clip. So it's not from a sketch or anything. It's from a movie called The Shaggy DA. I don't know if that's going to ring any bells.
Is that a Shaggy Dog sequel? Yeah, it's a Shaggy Dog sequel from. I know what clip you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the clip now because I've talked about it. I want to play it. 'Cause it's gonna be too good not to play it. Too good not to do it.
I'll watch it.
There you go.
Watch
Look at
stream.
this.
Dog has no license and is clearly in violation of the leash law. Call the pound.
I already did, sir. The truck is waiting outside.
Out of my way! Excuse me, ma'am.
But yeah, this is the sequel to the 1960s film The Shaggy Dog. It eventually got remade into The Shaggy Dog with Tim Allen and Robert Downey Jr. in 2006, which I saw as a kid. It's about this lawyer. It's about this lawyer who slowly transforms into a Shaggy Dog. Really terrible.
It's some absolutely incredible.
Hopefully Disney
puppetry
does
work.
not kill us here. We need to figure out a way of trying to avoid copyright here.
We'll be fine. It was on YouTube when I watched it. Unless, what does Oceana Bonanza know about being able to play this clip on YouTube that we don't know? It should be fine. But anyway, yeah. God, where were we? So, the guy gets eaten by a mysterious monster, floats up in the sky, chases him down the street, kills him dead, vanishes.
A pretty solid crane shot here. There's actual movement going on within this scene, which is quite good because most classic Doctor Who episodes are stuck inside a studio. And when we're stuck inside a studio, it's all multicam, so you can't get movement like this because other cameras are in the way. Whereas here, mostly location work, and it fucking looks great because of it. It's all single cam.
Yeah.
It looks really fucking solid.
motion, depth, texture. Like you feel like you're in a real environment. You don't feel like you're in a studio. Like which is it's very nice.
And most classic Doctor Who doesn't take place inside a normal fucking town. This was like the first episode ever to take place within a normal town, and now that's like commonplace in Doctor Who, starting with Rose. Rose opens up in just a normal city, just a council estate. Like, this was never done before in Doctor Who. You would never get just normal houses and people washing their cars or cutting the lawn, You just never see shit like this in Doctor Who. It's everyday shit. It's really cool.
Yeah. And, of course, now that someone has disappeared and vanished, it is time for the TARDIS to arrive, as it does with the Doctor and Ace stepping out. Is this where we get our first musical sting? When the TARDIS arrives?
Just before the TARDIS arrives, we hear a fucking guitar riff.
Yeah.
And it's fucking sick. I gotta tell you, it's sick, dude.
It's very good. It is very good. It is maybe the best Classic Who soundtrack that we've had, and it's like one riff on the guitar. It's like barely a soundtrack. It's literally just a guitar going.
It adds so much layer. This the composer for this episode was Dominic Glynn, and he first got the job as composer. He's done Doctor Who before this episode, but he first got the job in 1986. A few years before that, he wrote to John Nathan Turner saying, "The music in this show is fucking terrible. I can do better." And John Nathan Turner was like, "Challenge accepted." Hired him basically on the spot, which again, fucking easy to get a job in 1980s television.
Yeah, literally just be like, I can do this. Give it to me.
But yeah, especially later on in the episode, the rock guitar really fucking works, because with the skies, like with Purple Skies, it reminds me of like 1980s rock albums. And just, it adds so much, like, it feels like a heavy metal kind of episode because of that. It really works.
It's a good soundtrack. Yeah, no, it's solid. The Doctor and Ace walk down the street, and Ace is kind of like a broken record. She comes out, and she's like, "Oh, why are we back here in the sleepy village?" And the Doctor's like, "'Cause you said you went to see your friends." And she's like, "Oh, yeah. Of course, I went to see my friends. But they probably don't remember me. Why are we here in the sleepy village? To see my friends? Oh, God, I don't know if I want to see my friends. I've missed them, though. I've missed seeing my friends because I'm from the sleepy village here that we've not been in the sleepy village for ages." And that's, like, all her dialogue for the next, like, 2 scenes. It's just that. Yeah.
I mean, her main problem is a Sunday. Nothing interesting happens on Sundays.
Yeah.
And, around 2017, when people watched this episode, the joke on Twitter was at the time, "Hey, Doctor Who is now on Sundays." Doctor Who isn't as good as it used to be. Nothing is good on Sundays. Ace says the line, "Nothing is good on television on Sundays." And she was right, because the Jodie Whittaker era sucked. It had its moments.
It had its moments, but now the Doctor Who's not on Sundays, and it still sucks. So
yeah,
there's just more in it.
Doctor Who always sucks. But anyway, the
is
Doctor
true.
and Ace walk past a shirtless woman who looks like she's shirtless because she's wearing a top that really resembles her skin color. And every time
I don't see that. I don't. It doesn't look like she's wearing a shirt that matches. She just looks like she's wearing a dress. I think you're just seeing things. I think you're seeing what you want to see.
Yes, I really want to see this old woman naked.
You're into gilfs. You're into gilfs. We all know it. But yeah, they're like, "Hey, nothing weird is going on here. It's kind of a boring little town." We see an old lady shoo a cat out of her insanely overgrown garden. I don't know why they chose this garden of all gardens to shoot in.
But I guess it does work for cats. The cat is hidden, so you don't have to look at this terrible animatronic cat. It's just wind.
Yeah. We'll get to it when it comes up, but I like the bit when Ace picks up a real cat and then it turns into a puppet for 3 seconds and then turns back into a real cat. It's very cool. But the Doctor and Ace walk up a field, or like a play park area, so just like a big empty space, a dog walking park basically. And they're like, "Hey, there's nobody around. Where is everybody? It's so quiet here." And the Doctor spots some litter on the floor, cat food, just dropped and spread around, and also there's like horse manure and things like that all over, which he finds to be a bit odd, as does Ace. It's also just an insane amount of litter and not a lot of bins. What were you thinking, 1980s? You do this all.
Oh god, yeah. 1980 sounds like a fucking nightmare with litter.
Yeah. I imagine all of it is. We also get to see there's some kids playing with rugby balls in this scene, and they're getting stalked by a cat. But what I really like is if you listen to the dialogue the kids are saying, they're just saying ball. They're just saying the word ball. The most incredible dialogue I've ever heard.
But yeah, this is our first little glimpse of the Master, played by Anthony Ainsley, which...
Yeah,
this is our first time covering Anthony Ainley in the show, which
that's
been
insane.
a long time. He was a Master for 10 years, and we haven't covered him yet.
Wow, that is crazy. It's also because we've covered like Roger Delgado and stuff, and this version of the Master just looks exactly the goddamn same as Roger Delgado. Like, it never clicked to me when we were watching this. It's like, oh, I've never seen this Master before. It's like, oh, I've seen this guy before. I know this dude. I know what he's about. You know?
Yeah, it's really sad that they just gave him the exact same look. It's
yeah.
I guess there's some
get
kind
why
of
they did it, like, but
yeah, I guess there's some
cheap.
kind of commentary in there that the Master really just wants to look the same no matter what.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
really a shame because it really hinders his performance, and also he's way less campier in this episode than he usually is. But when he, the first between the Fourth Doctor, Fifth Doctor, and Sixth Doctor, every time he appears, he's really fucking camp. Here, he's pretty good in this episode, I must say, but he's not utilized to his full potential. He doesn't even meet Ace in this episode, which is kind of wasted potential. He doesn't share a scene with Ace, which is hard to believe. Even though the next time Ace meets the Master in Power of the Doctor, Ace is like, "Oh, are you still Cat?" it's really what I said with the Master and animals. For like the next time we see him in the TV movie, he turns into a snake, and then when he's John Sims, he turns into a skeleton man. He's a very different
another animal, skeleton.
Skeleton is my favorite animal. I want a pet skeleton all my life.
Every animal? Isn't every animal technically just a skeleton? Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. This as a first introduction to him as the Master, it's kind of underwhelming because, like as you said, he's not that camp in this one. He just kind of feels like the Master we've already known.
Yeah.
Up to this period. It's also, I don't know, is he supposed to be a surprise? Because they treat it like a surprise at the end of the episode when it's like, oh shit, the Master's here, but we see his full face. I know they've lit it so you only see his eyes, but you can see his full face. Like this, you can tell who it is.
I presume kids. Some kids are stupid enough.
I guess
if
you're watching this on a crappy 1980s TV as well, you probably can't tell. I'm watching this on a 2K monitor, like as high resolution as I could possibly get it into. But yeah, he's got glowing cat eyes, and he tells the cat that this is not his prey, and we watch the kids run off having fun together as the Doctor continues to be bored, and Ace is like, oh, I know where they'll be at like the community center or whatever this little bit is that they go into. The town hall essentially is what it's like. And you're a city boy, so I don't know if you've ever do you have like community halls and town halls around you ever?
There was a community center near my house when I was growing up, but it eventually closed because our area wasn't well budgeted. But I've been there. We had like an after school kind of thing. I was forced to go there actually, which I hated everybody at my school, and I got bullied a lot, so spending even more fucking time with my bullies wasn't great.
Yeah, we had an after school thing in the because we had a town hall in in the village I grew up in, which is where like all this stuff went on. I also got forced to go to an after schools club, but I was a cool kid and everyone liked me, so it was a really good time. They had like a PS2 and games, and it was fun. But yeah, it feels like a bygone era. I think they still do some stuff in the town hall, but it's like dance classes and things for old people. Like there isn't. As far also I don't have kids, so I have no idea. So maybe there's loads of shit, and I'm just not tapped into that world anymore. You know,
it's really sad because Aberdeen isn't an area that's there's not many places for kids to go in Aberdeen. There's mostly empty shops. There's mostly
places
for
empty
kids
shops.
to go.
There's the cinema, and it's interesting as well because everyone complains that the kids are like like being a nuisance in Union Square and stuff, they're like, tormenting people and being disruptive and all. It's like they've got fucking nothing to do. They're so bored.
Yeah.
There's
nothing to do.
There's absolutely nothing in Aberdeen.
And it's you basically have kids going around like Ace's friends here. Ace mentions that her friends like to burn stuff. I work with somebody who's like 5 years younger than me, so he's like 21. And he fucking burns stuff. Like sometimes I finish a shift with his coworker, and he's like, oh, what are you gonna do tonight? I say to him, and he's like, I'm just gonna burn down a field. I've got nothing better to do at midnight.
Insane. That's insane.
And I'm like, okay, have fun.
Insane thing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. People need hobbies. And they need to be able to go places and do things. And Aberdeen is like, what if we have another vape shop? Was that going to be... Why are all the kids vaping?
There's literally a vape shop just opened up like 2 doors away from my shop. It's insane. It's really sad. Especially since vapes are almost banned. Like, why would you open up a vape shop? Why would you open a vape shop when we're this close to getting it banned? I think it's like because in April it's banned.
You can turn that vape shop into a weed shop when they legalize weed instead.
But my theory about this vape shop that just opened up is I feel like it's a drug. It's a money laundering thing.
I think they're all. Drugs. I think every single
one. It has to be, right?
There's no way that you can have like 12 vape shops on one street. Like surely that's too much competition for anyone to stay in business. There'll be a couple that maybe make, but they all stay like vibrant.
Aberdeen, just a sad, depressing place. That's why no Doctor Who episode is ever filmed there, because it's depressing. Yeah.
I go there for the cinema. That's really that's it. That is it.
Yep, that's the only place I go to as well.
Inside this community center, they meet a like drill sergeant guy who's teaching a bunch of self-defense to a bunch of I guess they're supposed to be teenage boys. They all look about 25, but teenagers. And he's an interesting character. He's very aggressive and he's very drill sergeant-y, where he's like, "Come on, you show no mercy, kill this guy, hurt him. You're not going to win the fight till it's over." But then when the fight is over, he makes sure he checks on the kid that lost. He checks on the guy that won.
Yeah,
like he does care about these kids,
Yeah, the guy grabs his head to make sure the kid isn't concussed.
Yeah.
He cares about their safety, which is quite nice. I feel like if this episode was made today, there would be like a more kind of toxic masculinity rather than this is kind of like toxic
I feel like they would be more
but...
obvious with it. I think they would probably get away with the same, but when he's checking the concussion, he would be like, "Okay, just hold still, I'm checking for a concussion."
Yeah.
Like they would just explicitly be like lay out to you like, "I'm actually a good guy though." Rather because it's done like you could miss it easy.
Yeah.
Him checking, they don't call attention to it,
But I feel like today he would be like some kind of like Andrew Tate kind of character, kind of like the toxic masculine kind of guy, which is a valid move. It's a valid update on this kind of concept here.
I don't know, because I feel like there is a way of showcasing masculinity in a positive way. And this guy is maybe the closest you could get to it. He's maybe a bit more on the negative side still, but like he is masculine and tough and strong, but he's also caring and loving and protective. He's not aggressive or mean. And like I feel like that's still a role model that you need to see on screen. Like you need to represent that somehow. I thought he was a really interesting character.
Yeah, I like the actor as well. He's really solid.
Yeah.
In the original script, this guy was originally going to be a police sergeant, but they had to change it because you can't have police sergeants be violent on children's television in case, a kid walks up to needs help from a policeman and is scared because that policeman could be violent. You don't want to put that idea into kids' heads.
Imagine a cop being violent. Imagine.
Yeah, I know.
Imagine living in a place where the cops were violent.
And if you go back to the show 5 years earlier, it's one of the earliest classic Doctor Who stories we covered. Resurrection of the Daleks. It's the Peter Davison Dalek episode where it opens up on these people pretending to be policemen and just killing everybody on sight. There's
just
40 people who die. The very first episode, and that isn't scary for kids. Watching policemen kill people.
I feel like they come up with the rules for what they are allowed in Doctor Who per episode. Each episode gets its own set of rules,
and those policemen kill people on the same place where Sonic the Hedgehog is going to film.
Yeah,
the new Sonic movie is going to film.
That's
in
all
that
I'm going to
same
think
area.
about when that plays. It's excellent though because it's a wonderful bit of trivia you can tell people when you watch the movie with them. You're like, oh, did you know they shot classic Who there?
And people would be like, classic Doctor Who is shit. Modern Doctor Who is shit. What the fuck are you talking about? Who cares?
They'd be like, all right, okay, cool. Thanks. I want to watch the movie. But Ace asks this guy some questions, and he's like, no, there's nobody around. We just do self-defense lessons here. I don't know what you're on about. The Doctor kind of gets bored and wanders off, as he is for most of this episode. He stands next to a poster of cats.
Yep.
Fun bit of foreshadowing, because it's all about cats. The episode's cats.
A fun bit of foreshadowing because the cheetah people in this episode look like rejected.
They do look like they're from
cats.
Yeah. They do straight up look like they're from the musical Cats. The Doctor spots the weird, scary puppet cat outside and just kind of stares at it as the Master is like, the Doctor is here now.
There's interesting dialogue between the Sergeant and Ace here because the Sergeant is like, oh hey, I know you. You're lucky that the police didn't pick you up or whatever. And then he's like, oh, what? Your mum is worried sick about you. You're a missing person. It doesn't cost much to call her. 10 pence. And of course, this kind of line echoes what would eventually turn into 16 years later with World War III and Aliens of London, where Rose has been missing for the last 12 months because she's been traveling with the Doctor. I feel like there's some connection here, it's the same idea, but just further down. So there's a lot of echoes.
Russell D. Davies is a hack who steals ideas, you're right.
There is a lot of echoes here, with the whole council estate being a thing and Ace being a missing person is interesting.
Just goes to show that there truly is no original idea. Everything has been done.
But
it's just telling the same stories in different ways.
It's so fascinating watching classic Doctor Who here be so close to themes that would get explored in modern Doctor Who. That's so
kind of
close.
been the recurring theme for these past few weeks because we had that in Scream of the Shalka as well, where we're like, oh, this is very similar to modern Who, it's just a little bit off, Yeah,
it's really interesting. Ace is just a prototype for Rose. It's all very interesting.
And the Doctor is a prototype for the Doctor that showed up. Two characters called the Doctor. The Doctor and that they wander off, and Ace is like, oh, of course they're going to be in the pub or whatever this other place is that she's next to. I'll go check in here because we never actually go inside the pub. But the next time we see Ace, she's like, I got money from the fruit machine. So she goes off into the pub, and the Doctor goes into a supermarché that is there, a local corner shop, and meets two bestest buddies. These guys are straight up in love with each other. There is no two ways about it. At least the guy without the mustache is in love with the guy with the mustache.
So to quickly go back to the pub stuff, there was going to be dialogue here that Ace would talk about coming here as a child and trying to get the big kids to buy them alcohol, which is again
something that happens in Aberdeen constantly. You got nothing to do, try and get people to buy you alcohol. That's all you can do in Aberdeen. It's the same fucking thing. And Ace would be like, oh, these big kids would eventually steal our money for pool, but I would fucking go and beat them up, you know. And then Ace would realize that she'd be able to buy alcohol now because she's close to legal age. She's supposed to be 17 here, which is a big theme of this episode. You know, Ace is so close to womanhood, which, you know, there's a trilogy. You know, it's very interesting at exploring the idea of her being, you know, the first time we saw her in Dragonfire, she's just a rebellious teenager, and now she's turned into a mature woman. That's, again, classic Doctor Who would never do that before. Very interesting stuff.
Actually develop.
Yeah. Like, she's so much more mature here than in Dragonfire, which we covered earlier this year. There's such a huge development for this character, you know? It's like a different character development, you know? And she's strong, and she's capable, and she's independent, and amazing.
Good thing they cancelled it.
They were so close. But these two shop employees here are played by Gareth Hale and Norman Pace, and these are actually both comedians who were just starting their famous sketch comedy show, Hale and Pace, I guess it was called.
Never heard of it.
They were like the new hot thing. They had this TV show for 10 years, between like 1987 to 1997, the year I was born. So, of course, I never fucking saw them. This was a bit of stunt casting from John Nathan Turner, because John Nathan Turner loved casting famous people in these small roles. Like the previous episode, Curse of Fenric, which we also covered. The vicar in that episode was played by a game show host. So he really loved his stunt casting here. They're really fun. They are really fun here.
They are. They're fun. They're fun characters. I think the scene maybe goes on a little bit longer than it needs to, but the Doctor comes in as these guys are chatting, and they're like, "Hey, do you need help with anything, Doctor?" Also, they're talking about survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
that's a recurring theme, because in the self-defense class, it's all about survival of the fittest. Now into the supermarket, survival of the fittest. That's they really hammer home survival of the fittest. Like, if somebody has an opportunity to say it, they will. It's like a compulsion.
Just these two separate sets of characters talking about the same thing on the same day in the same time. Coincidence.
Yeah. And it's a fun little scene. They help the Doctor. They give him like a ton of cat food, because he's like, you know, I want to get cat food. What cat food do I get? And they're like, oh, this is a bunch of cat food from the adverts. Ha ha ha! Funny comedy.
As a person who works in a shop, the worst question you could ever ask a person who works in a shop is, what's the best type of this particular brand? What's the best type of cat food? What's the best type of wine? And you know, I'm like, I don't have a cat. How the fuck would I know? I just point to a random can every fucking time, because I just don't fucking know anything about cat food. Because there was one customer I had who was like, what's the best type of cigarettes? And I'm like, I don't smoke. And they were like, you work here, you should know what the best type of cigarettes are. And I'm like, I don't fucking smoke. I don't know anything about cigarettes. And I was apparently bad at my job because I know nothing about cigarettes. Okay.
I would just give them the most expensive one. The best one is this one. It costs like 40 quid. Why is it? What makes it so good? The price. The price makes it so good.
But don't even get me started on prices. Like, I had a customer complain to me the other day about prices, and I'm like, I just fucking work here. I don't control the prices. I don't control the economy. Fuck off.
That's what someone who controls the prices would say. But they go on to tells a story. One of the mustache man tells a story to the non-mustache man. He's like, I have a great joke for you. It's not a very good joke. And the non-mustache man is on literally like tenterhook. Like, he's so invested. He's like, fuck yeah, tell me this story. He's got a huge grin on his face waiting to hear this story. As he goes to tell him, he's like, so there's like these people camping out in the savannah or whatever. There's a lion. It's coming to get them. They hear the roar, and the friend starts putting on the shoes. And he's like, why are you putting on your shoes? You can't outrun a lion. He's like, well, I don't have to outrun the lion, ... And the guy's like, oh, I don't get it. The doctor comes in to explain the joke. Don't have to outrun the lion, just have to outrun my friend. It's a good scene. It's a fun scene. It's funnier than the way I'm describing it. Because
it does help when you
fun
have
back and
actual.
forth.
It does help when you have actual comedians in here doing the scene.
I just said I'm right here. What I like is the doctor's little tidbits that he adds on to it at the end when he's like, it's not a bad idea if you don't mind like losing a friend as well as when you're running away, and then you've got to worry about the next lion that shows up, and then a cat bursts out from behind the cat food because it was spying on them, and then uses the door. Because we see the door close behind the cat. I was like, how did that cat get out? like
I think
the door closes and the bell rings.
Leaves. That's the doctor leaving, right?
I don't know. No way. It feels like it's the cat leaving. I'm gonna watch.
Okay,
it
no,
it's
no.
A weird
okay, the doctor is still there when. Okay, the cat leaves.
Yeah,
but yeah, the cat
just
knows
uses
how to
the
use
door.
Doors. Yeah, makes perfect sense. I don't know what your problem is here. But yeah, I feel like this is implied to be their cat. Like the idea of going to a shop and there's just a cat around.
No, they have a cat. They have a different cat that's dead now. This is the cat that kills their cat. Because this is the
But also, they still have a cat in the shop, which is like
sure.
Would you go into a shop
okay
with a cat around?
Absolutely, I would. 100%. You ever go to a cat cafe? There's a whole cafe.
I haven't.
You can have a whole lunch and tea and have cats all over you. It's an excellent time. Cats
Sounds
are wonderful.
Awful.
No, they're so good.
No, thank you. My mom's thinking about getting cats, but
yeah, they're good.
So I'll have to babysit the cats when she's out of town, which doesn't sound good to me.
Nah, cats are lovely. I have a cat. I don't know where she is right now. She bites me all the time. She's wonderful.
Dead.
But the it's like you can go to pubs and let dogs and stuff in them. There's a comic shop in Aberdeen.
Are cool,
the cats are cool, but there's a comic shop in
Dogs
Aberdeen. The owner just has a little annoying ass dog that he just keeps in the shop. But yeah, it's pretty fun. The doctor comes out holding tins of cat food, and he's like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. There's some fun comedy here where the guy's like, you need to pay for the cat food. And he's like, no, I didn't forget that. And they quickly solve it by Ace being like, oh, I got money from the fruit machine. Isn't that fun? And we get a weird scene where the guy discovers his dead cat, and he's like, oh, no. Oh, man. That's weird. Yeah, my cat's dead. Someone ate my cat. My cat's literally been eaten. Oh, well.
Yeah, his reaction is like, oh, I didn't win anything on my scratch card. His reaction is, this is something that happens every day.
Another one? Another cat got eaten? God damn. To be fair, this town is infested with cats. It must be very easy to get some. But then we go into our next scene where Ace ends up finally meeting one of her friends, who's this punk protester trying to get money. They're trying to raise funds for saboteurs of something. I can't remember what the thing said. I remember it was a really weird sounding cause that she was raising money for. Hang on, let me, because I'll see it in a second here. Stop talking, doctor. Just put the fucking thing back. Hunt the saboteurs. That's what she's raising money for. Hunt the saboteurs. I don't know what that means.
But I like this character. She's fun.
She is fun, yeah.
She's a really fun personality, and it's cool to see. Oh, Ace is a regular person. People have noticed she's gone. Her friend is like, oh, I thought you either died or went to Birmingham.
She has
apparently the same thing.
She has a life outside the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Or she
Whereas
had a
any
life outside the
whereas
TARDIS.
any other companion don't have a fucking life outside of the TARDIS. They
Yeah.
have no backstory.
Or they have like a backstory, but it's so inconsequential.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know, like they're like, oh yeah, I used to work at this place, and then I never went back or spoke to anybody again, and nobody cared. Nobody ever mentioned it. I just live in the TARDIS now, and then I got abandoned in the future because I winked at somebody or something, and now I'm dead. But yeah, the friend goes on to talk about how, like, oh yeah, all of our previous friends have married or got different jobs or have just straight up vanished, and she's blaming it on like UFOs and alien abductions and things going weird. And the doctor's like, no, it's
which I
gotta
mean,
be...
isn't far off. she's actually
it's
kind of
actually pretty
correct.
close. Yeah,
they did get
pretty
kidnapped
close,
by aliens.
Yeah. And the doctor's like, okay, if you want to hunt something, you stalk it and you get it when it's, you know, when you're not expecting, when they're not expecting you, and you cover your tracks. You know, you hunt. And he smells some cat food, and he's putting together a plan to try and figure out what's going on. And the episode continues from there. At this point, especially for the first episode, I find it interesting. Because when characters are walking around a place being bored, makes me feel bored. And I, you know, like if you have your first episode opening being like, God, I'm so bored. I don't want to be here. I'm like, you're right. I don't want to be here. I am bored. But I think that it goes into it introduces some fun characters and sets up an interesting mystery with these cats that I'm not super bored yet, but
Yeah,
it's
you
not
know,
the most engaged I've ever been in an episode.
No,
you know?
but it's a fairly interesting setup for an episode, and also the idea that we are both bored gives so much extra context to Ace as a character. You know, she grew up in this town with nothing to do, nothing interesting going on apart from she burns stuff occasionally. That's all she could do. That's so much more extra context to Ace than any other fucking companion in the history of Doctor Who at this point. Like, that's so interesting. It's set up really well, and it's just the fact that it feels lived in. It's a lived-in town as well. It's a really solid setup.
They take their time exploring like all the parts of the town that Ace hangs out in and you know, used to have fun in. They really showcase all the corners that there is. You know, it's fine. So the episode continues onwards with one of the guys that we saw in the self-defense class going for a run, and he gets caught or seen by one of the cats, or the cat that's like stalking people, and then he gets zapperoided into oblivion. He gets, you know, it's the same shot we saw before with the crane shot in the middle of the street. It looks cool. You know, maybe it's just for if you missed the start of the episode.
Again, it just works. You know, it's not expensive to do. You don't have to do any special effects, and it just works. You get the idea immediately. It's really solid.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And we go from there to Ace and the Doctor walking down the street. Ace is she's annoyed at the thing that the self-defense instructor, the sergeant guy, said to her about only 10p for a phone call. Which I find interesting that she's annoyed about it now after like 3 scenes have passed. But
yeah, it does feel like there's some kind of change up in the order here, because her bringing it up now and not earlier is kind of strange. She just kind of forgot about it, but
just sat on it for a bit, just stewing away at her. You know, she had to say something. She tried to not say anything, but she couldn't let it go. And the Ace just kind of wanders off into the park where she like hangs out with the cat while the Doctor pours cat food onto the street and hides in a lady's garden. This is like the second half of this episode, things get a bit weirder. I also think they kind of slow down a little bit. But they're still kind of fun. There's some like comedy when a cat shows up and it's not the right cat and the Doctor tries to shoot away and the lady interrupts him, and you know, there's some shenanigans going on. And at the park, Ace sees a black cat picks it up to sit down on the swing with it, it rapidly turns into a puppet for like one shot and then turns back into a normal cat. And I think it works really well though as a little transition, because it's brief enough that it doesn't give you time to focus on how different the puppet is from the actual cat, and instead you just get like this cat suddenly going ah and then looking normal again, and it's creepy and weird.
Also, Sophie is allergic to cats, so this scene was really hard to film when she had to pick up the cat. She just had to stop herself from rubbing her eyes because her eyes were irritated. Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. And then things get mental as a leopard person, or the cheetah people. Yeah, a cheetah person on a horse shows up and stares at Ace for a bit, and then they have a run around the park in a really poorly choreographed chase sequence, which has Ace going up and off various park equipment before hiding inside one of the big cage climbing frame things.
But yeah, this is one of the greatest disappointments of the episode, the cheetah costumes. Jesus Christ.
They're interesting because they're not explicitly terrible.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was to wear this as like it looks like a furry suit. That's what it looks like, you know. And if this was somebody's homemade furry suit, I'd be like, damn, you put a lot of work into that, you know. But it translated on screen, it just looks like someone in a furry suit. The teeth are good. I like the teeth work is good and the mouth work is good. Like it's especially for classic. There's been worse monster costumes, and this one's got movability. They kind of look like people though as well. Like they don't feel any different. They don't like move around like monsters or anything like that. I also hate the name, Cheetah People. That's fucking lazy as shit.
But yeah, these cheetah people were originally supposed to look like humans, but just with cat fangs and cat eyes, maybe some leopard spots around their skin or whatever.
The vampires.
But
that's what everyone ends up looking like.
Yes, but John Nathan Turner was like, we need to have people running around looking like actual monsters. We need like proper makeup and costumes, so we're gonna make it a cat suit instead. And everybody just feels like the end results kind of just looks like Puss in Boots, you know.
Yeah.
Which is a fair comparison. This is the main cheetah person is Kara. She is played by Lisa Bowerman, Bowerman, not Barrowman, which we talk about pretty much every 3 or 4 months because she is, of course, big in Big Finish. She plays Bernice Summerfield, who we talk about every month, and we're like, I don't know anything about what's going on in her stories because there's so much to catch up on. But if you don't know, Bernice Summerfield is a character who was introduced in the 7th Doctor novel. She became a companion to the 7th Doctor. And when Big Finish were trying to get the license to do Doctor Who, they were given the character of Bernice Summerfield as a test trial, and obviously their stories with Bernice Summerfield did so well, they eventually got the license to do the full Doctor Who catalogue. And when they tried to hire somebody, they just went immediately to Lisa Bowerman. So she's like one of the most popular Doctor Who companions who wasn't in the actual show. So she's huge over at Big Finish. She's been there since 1998. One of the first actor cast at Big Finish, which is insane. She's been doing this for like almost 30 years now. such a long time ago.
It's such a long time to be doing something and also not be like massively known in the fandom you're doing it in. You know, she plays such a niche little role. And
her character sounds fucking wild. She's like an archaeologist, and her son is half dog, apparently. I don't know what's going on.
She's a cheetah person. So.
But I've only listened to the audiobook for Human Nature, which she narrates, and also Bernice Summerfield is a character in the Human Nature book. She was a character invented by Paul Cornell, by the way, who wrote Human Nature. He also wrote Scream of Vishalka, so obviously I wonder how much money he gets from creating this character.
Not much.
Probably not much, because it's Big Finish. And I imagine not much royalties, but it must be cool to create
something that big of a character, you know.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, no, it'd be a cool time, but
So yeah, the cat effects would be perfected 17 years later with New Earth and Gridlock. Those cat
Yes.
nurses
Those-
look fucking
yeah.
incredible. Those are like a
Yeah.
crowning achievement of British television makeup. But those cats, it's insane. It's insane.
insane that it, like, how good it is, and then how much it regressed by the time you get to like Carvanista, the dog
Yeah.
person. You
Well,
know, when it's like
you know.
back to looking like a furry suit.
One of the biggest problems with Carvanista was that series Flux was shot during COVID, so it's harder. I imagine there's less people around. There's less contact between the makeup people and the actor inside the costume, so I imagine there's a lot going on there that's harder to do.
That's something that I think I missed, that we didn't really get much of, if any, in season 1 of like Shooty's Doctor, is people in practical alien costumes being.
I mean,
like
the
we
bird
had
people.
the episode.
Yeah.
Sure, the bird people. Yeah, the bird people was pretty. Was probably the closest we would get to that. But there's just it's just the limit of episodes, I guess, because I feel like we used to get it way more often, and now it's like one episode a season. You know?
Oh, I just rewatched The End of the World the other day, and all those fucking costumes with the tree people and the blue person in the wheelchair, and there's so many amazing costumes in that first episode. You really feel like you're on an alien ship. There's like 6 or 7
There's so
different
much,
alien designs. It's impressive. It's
Yeah.
really impressive. So there's one of the major issues for the Cheetah people in this episode is they filmed this during summer. So it's really difficult for the Cheetah people to cope. I think Lisa Bowerman wound up having a heat stroke at some point, which sounds like a bad experience. One of the Cheetah people actually quit on set. She was like, I've had enough of this. She stripped off her costume right there on set, forgetting she's wearing nothing but a G-string, according to Sylvester McCoy. So she just strolls off in the sunset in her G-string.
That sounds like something Sylvester McCoy would say.
I think it's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy.
Lisa Bowerman is actually doing the horse work in this scene and in all the scenes, because the guy who gets killed at the start, the guy washing his car, he was originally hired to be the stunt person for the scene, but the horse was horribly abused by men previously in the horse's life. So he just would not, the horse would just not do anything around a man because, he was horribly abused. But with a woman, the horse was perfectly happy to do whatever. So Lisa Bowerman actually wound up doing her own stunts here, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. But eventually Ace gets caught and zapped to a quarry. I mean, an alien world. As she stumbles down the hill and sees a dead body getting eaten by cats. Is what she's so nonchalant about it as well.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh damn, look at that! That'd be the most horrifying thing you could ever see. Can you imagine seeing a human body being eaten by cats? Absolutely insanity."
But we are back to another quarry. This was the same quarry from like a previous episode in like season 24, I want to say, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which is directed by the same director as this episode, Alan Waring. But the big thing about this episode is the fucking sky. The fucking sky does a lot to make you believe it's an alien planet. The sky is such an excellent choice. It looks fantastic.
It does. It looks good for sure.
We do cut back
the soundtrack.
to
The soundtrack helps it as well, because like when they go to the alien world, that's when the soundtrack really starts kicking in more, and it feels like you're watching, like, it's very 80s, but it feels like you're watching something weird and sci-fi futuristic-y. It almost feels like He-Man. I think of He-Man a lot, or like Thundercats, because everyone's these giant cat people. It's that sort of vibe I get from the visuals and soundtrack.
Yeah, there's a big distinction between the music in Perryville, which is like mostly like lonely piano music, whereas here in on the Cheetah planet, it's electric guitars, and the composer is playing a violin really badly, but also reversing the effects of the violin, so you just get this screeching noise, which fucking it's really fucking cool. I really like the music in this episode. It's really well done. We do cut back to the Doctor briefly with the cat food, and he attracts the dog. The dog is played by John Nathan Turner, the showrunner's dog, Pepsi. Which is he's a good dog, apparently. He really did his work. You know, all the cat actors were nightmares. The horses were nightmares.
Of course.
But the dog did his job.
You can't train a cat. Can't train a cat to do acting. You can train a dog, you know. But yeah, so the Doctor gets like citizen arrested by the sergeant guy who's like neighborhood watch, blah, blah, blah. But eventually they get zapped as well, and we see Ace getting chased by the cheetah person on the horse, but she gets saved by the dude that got zapped before that was doing the run from the self-defense class, and then he just gets murdered straight up and then lobbed on the horse and ran off into the sunset as a dead body. And Ace reunites with one of her friends, so mission accomplished for her. You know?
If you go back to 1841 in the timeline, there's a really good transition between Ace and the Doctor here, where Ace is running away from the cheetah person on horseback, which is a Planet of the Apes reference, by the way, because you know the Planet of the Apes have apes on horseback. But Ace is running away from the horse, running from right to left.
Oh yeah.
And then it cuts to the Doctor running right to left. That's a really good directing choice, because there's just a constant flow of movement. It's a really good transition here, because it's the same movements going on. It's really well directed.
Yeah, no, that works well for sure. And you know, Ace meets her friend, and she's like, "You shouldn't have run, because running just makes them want you, because they like, you know, it's about the hunt, it's about the game, it's about the chase, because they're cheetah people, the cheetah people." What came first, the cheetah or the cheetah people? And how did the cheetah people know about the cheetahs? They're from a different world.
I don't know.
Is it a
Don't
coincidence?
ask me.
I hate the name. The name is terrible. It's such a terrible name. It's so lazy for a species of people, you know.
But what I really like here is her friend is played by an Asian woman, and on the special features on the DVD, the Asian woman, I can't remember the actress's name, I'm sorry, but she's basically like, I was really happy to get this role, because any other time I've been cast in like an Asian character, you know, it's always about the fact that I am an Asian woman. But here, I'm just a regular friend of Ace's. I'm treated like everyone else. It's not about my race, which is really fucking cool, you know? Just because, you know, whenever you cast a person of ethnic minority, it's always about, oh, this is a problem of the week we have to solve. We have to solve, like, racial tensions between people and stuff like that. But it's nice to just be a regular person.
Yeah, I think it's and it's an interesting problem that I think falls down mostly on writers and creatives in general, where, you know, they have, if you're a creative person and you're making a piece of art, you want to leave an impact, you want to make a statement, you want to say something. And if you bring in somebody from a different race or from a different culture or background, you want to be like, no, I want to make it like sure that you guys get represented. I want to make sure you guys get shown. I want to like give you guys a voice that you guys don't have, because you're so like unrepresented. So you end up making it all about their race and kind of having the reverse effect of what you were going for, when instead of like playing it off as like, it's not a big deal, whatever, you know, they're just a person. It's probably way more effective at times, but it's a hard balance to strike. But yeah, no, just, I mean, how hard is it? The people are people, isn't it?
I know. Yeah. It's insane. Well, one of the key issues between people this episode really delves into is gay people. We'll talk about it later on. You might not even know what I'm even talking about, because it's so hidden under subtext.
All the furries.
Kind of, yeah. But also Midge here, the main guy, Midge. He has a earring. He has a pierced ear. It's the right ear, which is code
gay
that he's
year.
gay. Yes, it's a
Gay
gay
year.
year. So this character is coded gay. There's more gay stuff we'll talk about next episode, but keep that in mind. This is a gay character apparently.
Interesting.
Which in 1989 is impossible to write a gay character on mainstream television in the UK, especially a show that's geared towards children mainly. So, they're trying their best here.
Sure, yeah, no, it's fine. What else happens in this episode? So the doctor and the soldier dude are trying to catch the cat. You get some fun shots of from the cat's POV peeking out behind bins and things like that. And eventually the doctor's about to get the cat, and they the sergeant distracts them or whatever, and the cat runs away but teleports, and they get caught in the teleportation. Not quite sure what happens for them to teleport as well, but everybody teleports. They all end up on the alien planet, which is really good news for the doctor, because that's where Ace is and where the bad guys are. Really bad news for the sergeant, because he doesn't want to be here. And they end up right at the heart of a camp full of cheetah people. And it's quite a fun looking camp. It reminds me, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the deserty aesthetic and the guy in a military uniform. It just makes me think of Fallout New Vegas. I don't know. Maybe I just want to play Fallout New Vegas again. I don't know. Great game. And the doctor ends up going into a tent where, holy shit, you're not going to believe who's in there. You're not going to believe who's been pulling the strings this whole time, Scott. It's been the Master. The Master, you know the Master. He's one of the Doctor's biggest villains ever. He was in charge. That was him whose face you entirely saw before. But yeah, you can tell because there were some shadows. The Master was in charge, and it's an okay cliffhanger. I really appreciate that it's a cliffhanger that isn't, oh, you're about to die. It's just aha, villain reveal, the end, and then you're left being like, oh no, rather than they're not gonna die. It's a much nicer ending to this episode.
Of course, yeah, because if it's just the Doctor and the army man getting cornered by these cheetah people going rawr, rawr, with their paws up.
Oh, it's so easy for that to be the cliffhanger. Yeah,
it would be terrible. It would be like these characters are not threatening in the slightest. We're just furries. Actually, I guess furries are threatening. I'm sorry. But yeah, it would be silly, but instead it's the Master, and the Master is an established character. Everybody loves the Master. Of course, there's some tension going on here. It's the Doctor's greatest enemy.
Yeah, and it's a solid ending to episode 1. It's a solid enough episode 1. It comes really close to losing me when the cheetah people show up. Yeah, the cheetah people, it's very camp. It just toes the line of camp enough that it's fun. But it's so close to being so camp it's silly, and the episode just becomes like a parody of itself almost, you know. But I'm invested in it. I'm enjoying it.
I'm really solid. Enjoying this episode. It's a solid episode. Yeah, let's go on to episode 2.
Let us jump in to episode 2.
Oh, do shut up. This planet's disintegrating. According to my calculations, the safest place for the moment is over there. What about them? We'll have to make our way through.
This disintegration, you think we're going to blow up?
Well, it is an old planet, a bit frayed at the edges. But we'll be safe over there. Safe from the cheetahs and the Master.
Master? Who's he?
An evil genius. One of my oldest and deadliest of enemies.
Do you know any nice people? Ordinary people. Not power-crazed nutters trying to take over the galaxy.
I don't think he's trying to take over the galaxy this time.
So what's all this in aid of?
He's got some mind link. The cats, the kittlings.
And they find things for the cheetah people to eat.
I was about to do an intro. We don't need to do an intro. We're just jumping straight into episode 2 because this is all one big episode that we've recorded in one sitting. 100%. We just took a little break to change our clothes and get some food or whatever, and have some many hours between these. But,
yeah, we totally sat here for 4 hours just talking about this episode. I imagine it will be 4 hours, which is our longest episode in a while, but hey, it's worth it.
I reckon bang on 1 hour. Once when I cut off all the fluff and the unnecessary parts, just an hour.
Basically, just when I speak, the unnecessary parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't actually remember. How long did we record last time? Like, what, 2 hours?
Roughly 2 hours. I believe so.
Christ. Yeah. How are we getting this out by Friday? We have the whole other episode to cover still.
I mean, we're getting out by next Friday, so.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's the news this Friday, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
We're
Weird doing this.
Are we
We're not
keeping
usually
this
ahead
in
of
the
schedule.
episode?
Yeah, why not? We're not usually ahead of schedule. It's weird to be ahead of schedule. We're usually like the day before it comes out. But now we're ahead of schedule, and we are jumping into episode 2 of Survival, which it opens up with where we left off last time, with the doctor and the army guy appearing on the planet of the cheetahs, the cheetah planet where the cheetah people live, which is just a quarry because it's Doctor Who. But it's a quarry with a cool sky.
They encounter a furry on the floor, and if you've ever been to a Comic-Con, I think that's what furries basically do. We just crawl around on the floor and just,
Yeah. I don't necessarily. I don't have any problems with furries.
I don't.
I find them like. I participate in the online memeage of making fun of furries. I believe it's one of the last few like sexual orientations that's still acceptable to mock. But I'm sure it probably won't be for much longer. But I do always get it's always a bit weird seeing a fursuit in person. I never know how I feel about it, because I'm like, it's like, I don't know, maybe if there's a furry listening, they can explain it a bit, but sure, is not wearing the suit part of the sexual gratification, And like, I don't really want to participate in your sexual gratification.
I mean, sometimes it's just be like,
it's part of the escape or the role play of it, but like, surely that all ties into the sexual gratification part. Do you
think anybody works at Disneyland and do you think the people at Disneyland dressed up in like Winnie the Pooh, are they furries? Like, do you think?
I imagine they probably screen furries out.
I do wonder what the furry protocol is.
But although to be fair, right? If you're a furry and you have a full ass fursuit, you're probably one of the best people in the world to play a mascot.
True.
Because like those suits are insanely hot. Like you're just overheating the entire time. You're on your feet all day.
God, yeah.
You have to be nice and interactable with, like, they're probably the best people for it, honestly.
Especially in like Florida weather or like Los Angeles.
Oh my god,
weather.
I can't
Jesus.
imagine being a mascot. Oh my god, you would die.
I've been to Florida in August and it is a nightmare. I've been
to Florida in July. Yeah, it was a nightmare. Yeah, it's so fucking humid, man. Yeah.
But it's also the cheapest time you can go, so I guess that's why we went.
Yeah, it was brutal. I would like to go back to America at some point. Maybe in about 4 years or
why 4 years? What's happening?
I just need to save up. For it, It's an expensive place to get to from where we are. But this episode opens up with the cliffhanger of the reveal of the Master, and we then cut off briefly to see Ace watching a carcass be feasted upon by some cats, and it's a super real looking carcass. It doesn't look like rubber, but it's kind of, for like classic Who, it's pretty gruesome to see like blood and bones and rotting flesh, like you don't usually see things that graphic, even if they do look a bit cheap.
I mean, some of the bones later on are actual bones when we're walking past all the bones. Like, apparently we didn't I don't know what the word is. We didn't furnish it. That's not the correct word, but we didn't clean the bones correctly. And there was heaps of maggots and flies swarming around the place. And it was a hot day, so the smell of this rotten flesh and bones must have been horrid.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. When you're filming a TV show and there's rotting flesh and maggots everywhere, and you're like, "This is the last episode." Yeah. Okay. It's the most literal metaphor for the show at that point. It's just a rotting carcass. But it's a very brief scene they see, and it's basically just Ace being like, hey, we need to fight the cat people before we go back to the doctor and the soldier guy, who I was really kind of confused by the scene that comes up with the master and that. Like, the master and the doctor having their little exchange is very fun, and it's very, you know, you said this is a very flamboyant master most of the time. He's very static and like just he's like regular master here. He's a classic Who master, but when the soldier guy gets like encircled by the cheetah people, and the doctor's like, oh, they're just playing with him, and I was like,
yeah, because
what's happening? What's going on in there?
The master is just like, oh, these are really a fun-loving species, and we keep cutting to them just rolling around on the floor like actual furries would, you know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird scene.
Because you never feel threatened by these cheetah people. I'm sorry, and also just the idea of a master implanting the idea of, oh, these are a fun-loving species. It just adds even less threat to them.
Yeah, but I feel like that's usually like they're not that threatening because the costume isn't intimidating. Yeah. You know, like, it's a cool costume. It's very well detailed, but it's not that intimidating, because they look too much like people. They don't look like cheetah. They look like people in a cheetah mascot outfit. You know, I'm not that scared of mascots. I'm sure some people are. I'm sure it's a very big fear, but
I guess it is. Yeah, I feel like as a kid I was scared by mascots. Maybe I'm not sure. I was scared of that one clown one time. Because we went to a circus and the clown was just we were in the front row and the clown was just going around shaking hands and saying hello to people, and I got terrified because I thought the clown wanted me to go and perform a circus act or something.
You're in the
like
circus now. Congratulations, you're in the circus.
I was expecting the clown to like prank me and pull me on stage and do a tightrope walk or something. I was terrified.
Yeah, throws you through a hoop of fire or something. Yeah, I've never really. I don't think I've ever been scared of mascots. Really, I don't really want to interact with them. Like if I'm at like Disney World or something like that, and I see like Mickey Mouse, or like I want to keep a respectable distance. I don't really want to talk to him.
The one mascot I've ever interacted with is Homer Simpson at Universal Studios. He gave me a high five.
Oh, nice.
I met Homer Simpson. It was ace. He never talked, but you know.
Yeah. I don't remember meeting. I don't think they had met any mascots when I went to Universal Studios. It was very empty.
And I also met Doc Brown from Back to the Future, but it was an actual guy in a costume rather than like a furry costume.
It would be weird if it was a mascot of Doc Brown, like it was like a giant cartoon version of him. That would be weird.
Homer Simpson and Doc Brown, both voiced by Dan Castellaneta in cartoons. Because there was a Back to the Future cartoon. So. Fun fact for the day.
He's a busy guy. We go off to Ace and her group of friends, which is fun. You get like a nice little interaction here with everybody, especially with that one guy who keeps like questioning everything that Ace says. There's a chemistry here and some friction between them that you really feel. I kind of like it. The friends, they don't have much else to do throughout the first half of this, but they're this scene is good.
Hey, the idea
it flesh Ace out,
The idea of giving a companion friends is interesting because we don't get much of a personal life outside of Ace.
Yeah.
Like, fucking our next episode is Robot, and there's one point in Robot where Sarah Jane Smith is like, I'm just gonna go home. And I'm like, you have a home? You have a home? What? That's all there is to Sarah Jane's personal life. She has a home.
She has a home. That's a lot, though. That's a lot. That's like a whole thing. It's a whole like one thing. But we go back to the doctor, and he distracts the cheetah people by juggling, which is it's a fun little scene, and just Sylvester McCoy showing off that he can juggle.
Every episode there's some kind of stunt like this with Sylvester McCoy, like there's either him walking away from an explosion or just dangling off of a cliff edge for no reason. There's always some kind of stunt with him.
But he's a clown man. He does clowning stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, but Ace and her friends are like, okay, we need to catch some of the cheetah people off guard, because Ace is like really violent for some reason.
Yeah.
She's like, we need to just destroy the cheetah people, absolutely end them. It's like, you're on the cheetah people planet. What are you really hoping to achieve? you can kill 1 or 2 cheetah people, they're just gonna come after you more.
Just hide, you know, just hide.
Just
Take
yeah,
a coward's way
hide.
out, you know.
Try to find a way out. Try to find the doctor. Try to like hope someone's gonna come and save you. Just, you know, survive, as the episode is kind of called. You know, like, don't. Why are you trying to bring the fight to the cheetah people? I don't get it. And also, their plan sucks.
Yeah.
Because the cheetah people apparently ride through this valley on their horses all the time, and so they come up with the idea. Okay, let's garrote them. Let's put a tripwire up and just like decapitate them or something. And the way that you would do this, if I was doing this, is I wouldn't have the fucking wire up the entire time. I would have it slack. And then the moment they're about to approach, pull it tight so they don't have time to see it and stop and cut it. Like what happens? It, you know, they're done. Absolute moronic.
Yeah.
Moronic behavior.
And also, like, that shot of the claws retracting is like a specially made glove for this shot alone. And it's like, I don't really care. You know,
it's a lot of effort for a really mediocre shot. Yeah. We get a very nice shot, speaking of shots, of the doctor riding on horseback with the sergeant guy. Mostly because the sky is very, very pretty in this episode. It's like beautiful, like purplish pink.
And it adds to the illusion that this is an alien planet. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into this. It's so obvious that we have to cut around trying to hide the sky for most of the shots. Like, there's a lot of shots where we are purposely avoiding the sky at all costs. But you know, it works because you know, we get these kind of shots like maybe 5 or 6 times per episode, I would say. And every time it just looks absolutely gorgeous, and it just
it's beautiful.
It really works. The guy playing the sergeant here, Julian Holloway, he had a really bad back and was absolutely terrified of riding the horse, so he's just clinging on to Sylvester McCoy for dear life here.
Jeez. I also like, I really like the idea of changing the sky to be that color, because like if this was like any other episode of Doctor Who, that's a blue sky, and this just looks like they're on Earth, you know. And just that one little change of the pink sky with the like alien moon and stuff like it just helps sell the fact that this is a different planet, because it's just desert, it's just quarry, it's just sand and dust, and it looks like every other fucking Doctor Who thing we've ever seen in our lives. But it does such a transformative thing, just doing that one little detail, you know.
Especially in an episode where you're already struggling with budget restraints with the cat costumes, you know, you need an extra little touch to add the illusion, because, you know, if it's just blue skies and people in cheetah costumes, it's less interesting. But with the skies changed, at least it's more believable. It's cool. It's really cool, especially those shots where there's a moon in the sky. I love that moon. It's really well done.
Yeah. It is very, very well done. And during this scene, the sergeant guy is just talking about how he's the ultimate survivor and how he can master any situation and how badass and tough he is, which is a recurring thing up until he dies, doesn't he? Up until his death.
No, he doesn't die.
Does he not die? I feel like he died.
No, at the end of the
Maybe
story,
he
he thinks he's just hallucinated the entire thing.
Oh, right. Interesting. I thought he died for some reason. Maybe I just wanted him to die. We go to Earth very briefly because the Masters promised the cheetah people some food, and we see a milkman delivering milk in glass bottles, as was the style at the time in 1989, and as is the style at the time in 2024, if you live where I am, where you can still get milk delivered to your house.
I don't think I've ever seen milk delivered in
really?
a glass bottle, no.
Wow.
I've always lived in the city, or near enough to the city, so I've just never seen...
And you can't deliver glass bottles in the city. People will smash them, and they'll stab each other with it. There's criminals all over.
If you leave anything on the doorstep in the city, it is gone within like 5 minutes.
It's up for grabs. It's the cities at that point.
As I discovered the other day with my Amazon parcel, I got 2 vinyl records, £60. and I was at work, so I couldn't take it in, obviously. And then I came home, it was stolen. The Amazon delivery man just left it out in the rain as well, so fucking...
It's insane.
furious.
I can't imagine stealing post. Like, I don't understand the purpose of it. Like, why would... Like, what if it's something you don't want? Why are you stealing the post? Like, just the thrill of taking it, I guess, you know? Like, it's ridiculous, but you know, R.I.P. You're just another crime statistic.
It's a nightmare, and I can't even lodge a complaint yet, because when you go to Amazon's like help page, we're like, oh, have you tried checking around the neighborhood, checking in with your neighbors? And I'm like, of course not, because my neighbors aren't going to take in the parcel. It's just being stolen by some randomer, you know.
They might have.
They might have, but I would have heard a knock by now.
Probably.
It was 3
someone
nights ago.
would have come up, or at least if I was them, like, I would have just stuck a letter under your door and be like, "Hey, I've got your parcel. Come down to my flat and I'll give it to you," or something, you know.
Just absolute nightmare. Fuck Amazon, honestly.
I've never had a parcel stolen. I live in a very crime-free area. I don't even have a house. I have nobody attached to my house. It's a house that stands by itself. I don't know what the word for that is. Detached? It's detached. My neighbors are behind a wall.
Okay.
You know, so.
Good for you, Mr. Country Boy.
Yeah, baby. It's the price you pay. You know, we got bad internet, but we got safe streets. Where the fuck are we? So they fail at the garroting thing, but that doesn't deter Ace and everybody after the milkman doesn't show up yet. No, he shows up a little bit later.
Well, they set another trap.
And they catch the doctor, don't they? Which is a fun little bit, catching the doctor. It's goofy. I like episode 2 in this. Like, I think I like episode 1 more, just because I kind of like the mystery. I know it was slow paced, but the mystery of walking around the town and figuring something out. When you go to the alien planet, I care a little bit less about what's going on. But it's a fun romp. This is a genuinely, like, especially for classic Who, and we've covered in Sylvester's era as well. Like, sometimes, and it's a thing that we always talk about, is pacing. I find the pacing in these 3 episodes to be pretty much on point. Like, there's not a single point where I'm like, that's slow. You could have cut this. You know, there's like a really long walking scene here. Like, everything kind of feels like it has a purpose, even if it necessarily doesn't necessarily have a purpose. But you're never sitting there watching the clock or something, you know?
Yeah, I feel like the pacing in every Sylvester McCoy episode we've covered so far is pretty solid, apart from Dragonfire, which was 3
I was about to say
episodes.
Dragonfire.
And that episode just dragged on. But Remembrance of the Daleks and Curse of Fenric really had excellent pacing. But this, I think Survival, as a matter of fact, I feel like Survival could have had another episode, because I feel like I want more rather than less, which is very rare for classic Doctor Who. Bless you.
Thank you. I sneezed.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just allergic to classic Who. The Doctor reunited with Ace and that. They start wandering around, and what are they looking for? Are they looking for the Master again, or they're like wanting to stop the Master or something? They're like Ace has never met the Master, which I found interesting.
Yeah, it's very strange. But yeah, they have a conversation about the Master. I think they're looking for a way out, because we just keep wandering around. There's another beautiful.
Yeah, I suppose they're here. This is like an episode where they're nowhere near the TARDIS. They're on the TARDIS is on Earth. They are stranded without the TARDIS. Which they never really bring up.
And it's an episode where they're wandering around, but you're interested because there is no way out, and you're trying to figure out how to get out to this planet with them. It's again great pacing.
It is solid. I really, really enjoy it. And they walk through like this like valley of death at one point, which they see like all these cheetah people on either side of them, and the Doctor picks up a human skull, and the Doctor is like adamant, like, hey, the cheetah people aren't going to hurt you unless they're hungry. Don't give them a reason to hurt you. Just stay calm and just walk, and we will be fine. And I it's so hard not to laugh at the cheetah people lying down going rawr, rawr, rawr. It's campy. It's a campy little episode. This, but it's fun. It is fun, you know.
Yeah, we're trying their best. You know, this is, you know, we're getting a lot of action in this sequence, especially, and you can tell they just thought of the blocking and the action movements like 10 minutes ago. It's not the best, but they're doing what they can with limited resources and time.
They're trying. They're trying. And then we get on to probably the most famous scene for the different reason out of this story. And it's a scene that I had seen the blooper that you're going to talk about more before I had even seen this episode. It's a very famous blooper, but they come into this huge, big, like, open area, and the doctor's like, okay, we're there's kind of like cheetahs everywhere, but just stay still and they're not going to hurt you. Like, just don't move. And he's very adamant, don't move, don't move, don't move. The milkman appears and comes fucking bombing it down the hill and causes a big commotion. Everybody starts fleeing and running around the entire time. The doctor's like, stop fucking moving. I told you, please stop moving, stop moving. But nobody's listening to him, and chaos ensues with this huge action scene, throwing rocks and stuff like that. But I'll let you talk about the blooper.
So there's a blooper where Sylvester McCoy, he always likes to add something extra to a scene that's not in the script. And for this scene, he decides to start swearing at people. He actually uses the F word. I don't know why I said the F word instead of just saying fuck. But he decides to start...
Whoa. Family-friendly show. What are you doing?
And he takes off his hat. He takes off his jacket. He kind of stumps on the ground a bit. And then he kind of jumps up. And I don't... Was it called a plank fall? I feel like it should be called a plank fall because he kind of dives onto the ground.
Pratfall? Is it a
pratfall? I don't know.
It feels like
I feel like a pratfall is falling on your ass rather than your stomach.
A pratfall is to fall on your buttocks. Yeah.
I
fall
don't think
on
there's
face word.
But he kind of just jumps in the air and kind of does a. He kind of does a vertical jump or a, what is it, horizontal? I don't know my words.
Let's see what ChatGPT has to say, because Google is no use. Let's see. What word like pratfall, but for falling on face? Face plant? Yeah, it says face plant. It was I guess it's a face plant. He does go like head first.
I think we can play the clip. Let's just play the clip.
Yeah. Yeah, I can play the clip right here.
Not yet. Now.
Action.
Don't move!
What? There's one thing more dangerous than being attacked by a cheetah, and that is attacking a cheetah.
You do not know what will happen to you! Just stay still!
I'm not putting up with this. I'm not standing here and getting eaten alive.
Idiot! Come on then, come and fight! No, Ace! Stay still! Will you stay still? You idiots! I don't know how many times I gotta tell you not to move! You moved! You moved!
Thank you.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Sylvester McCoy
what a
is
cool
such
clip.
a joy. I wonder why he wouldn't do something like that when we saw him at Comic-Con. I wonder why he wouldn't just fall flat onto the stage. This 80-year-old
I'm sure if his insurance would allow him to do it, it would be, something that he would do. But like, can you imagine the amount of paperwork Comic-Con would have to do if, like, Sylvester McCoy concussed himself live on stage in front of an audience of children?
But what a gem of a man! What a great blooper.
He's very funny.
It's probably one of my favorite Doctor Who bloopers. It is just hysterical.
It is good. It is good. We don't really get bloopers. Do we still get bloopers? I don't remember last time I watched like a blooper compilation. Maybe I'm just not seeking that media out anymore. But I don't remember.
I know the Russell T Davis era DVDs had them because I remember some famous ones in Series 2 where a Cyberman is in a park and the Cyberman is just dancing around and stuff.
Yeah. It's a very famous GIF as well.
Yes. But yeah, we don't really get bloopers anymore. We don't get special features in general anymore. Like
Yeah.
Instead
unless you're talking about the classic Who Blu-rays, in which case it's like nothing but special features.
The special features on the classic Who Blu-rays are insane. Like no stone has been left untouched. It's Whereas like with season 1 DVD, with Shutigawa season 1 DVD, 55, probably like £60 for 8 episodes.
That's too expensive.
And
especially for the quality of the episodes.
And there was hardly any special features that weren't online. There was no deleted scenes, but we decided to just release deleted scenes on Doctor Who Day on the 23rd of November, just randomly online. And I fucking wonder, what's the point of getting these DVDs if you're not going to have any special features? So I'm just going to stick with BBC iPlayer.
It's a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Because it's like, no one is buying the Blu-rays, so we'll stop putting the special features on it. But no one's buying the Blu-rays because you've stopped putting the special features on it. And, it's just this Ouroboros of, eating itself. It's,
thank God that the Blu-rays still have special features. Well, like, the budget on these Blu-rays are really worth the value. And you're getting an entire season for, like, £50 as well. Like, 26 episodes. Decent value.
yeah, for sure. But after the kerfuffle, Ace ends up like spotting a cheetah that I don't really understand what the cheetah tries to do. It like climbs off a horse and tries to drown itself.
So the water. So I think the cheetah was. Sorry, to rewind. Ace threw a stone at this cheetah's head. Yeah. The cheetah got injured, and the water has magical properties that can heal the cheetah people. So the cheetah is trying to heal herself. And this is, we'll talk about it later, but this is the lesbian subtext I've hinted at in the last episode. This is the lesbian subtext about to enter into this episode, which is interesting, but we'll get more into it as the episode progresses.
Yes, we shall. As the Ace goes over and pulls the cheetah out of the water and stares it in the eyes as the Doctor climbs over the hill in a very, very pretty establishing shot. Another nice big wide. It's very,
just
very
the silhouette of Sylvester McCoy as well. Like, the costume is meant to be silhouetted, and it looks great. But him with his umbrella and his coat. And his hat, it's a great silhouette, and the moon in the sky, just a great shot. Like the extra effort this production team went through here is really solid. Yeah, it is. It's very cool. I like it a lot. So the Doctor goes over that hill and has a bit of a stare down with the Master, and we then cut to which I like the Master and the Doctor's dynamic in this because they're antagonistic but not overtly to each other, It's really interesting. Apparently there's a lot of subtext kind of cut down between the Doctor and the Master because there's a lot of the way Rona, the writer, thinks about this is the Master is kind of jealous of the Doctor because he wants to be the Doctor's greatest enemy, but every time the Doctor fights the Master and wins the day, the Doctor just goes off and never thinks about the Master in between adventures. And apparently her interpretation is the Master's always like, why doesn't the Doctor consider me a greater threat than I am? Why doesn't the Doctor always go around worried about my existence,
Yeah, everybody should be thinking, where's Poochie?
Which it is a bit of a shame that kind of subtext is cut down in this episode because the Master is kind of just here. He doesn't really have much to do, but at the same time, he is a presence. It's very conflicting. It's okay.
It's not the worst Master appearance we've seen. It's not the best. It's right there in the it's all right camp.
Yeah.
And we cut to one of Ace's friends in a fight with the cheetah people, and he like pulls a tooth and stabs it in the gut, killing it dead. Which is, you know, kind of, that happens a little bit later on, but you know, that whatever. He kills a cheetah guy. And while that's happening, Ace and the cheetah. Where the fuck am I? I'm so
we do after the stabbing or before the stabbing. The master explains to the doctor, but every time these cheetah people get into a fight with each other, the planet is kind of self-destructing. So the more the cheetah people fight, the more the planet gets destroyed. This is obviously a political statement about the planet. The more people fight, the people are just fucking destroying this planet. And that's the political subject of this episode.
Prove it.
And, you know, a lot of people like to pretend that Doctor Who isn't political. We're covering 2 classic Doctor Who stories this month, which are political, you know? Like, the idea of taking care of the planet is political. I'm sorry, but Doctor Who was always political.
It's kind of like it's really hard to write any story that doesn't have a message or a meaning behind it. It's kind of the whole purpose of a story is to convey some sort of message.
But I think this works better than a Orphan 55 because there is no explicit. The Doctor turns to the camera and says, "See, this is what could happen to Earth if we don't change our ways." Remember that classic line at the end of Orphan 55?
How could I forget? How could I forget? It's iconic. It's one of the most iconic moments in television history.
I fucking love it when characters in a TV show stare at the camera and tell you
exactly
of the episode.
That way I don't have to think about it because they just told me, and then I can move on. You know? I don't have to try and think about or consume media in a critical way.
Like, if you're not engaging with this episode of Survival, then you don't get the message. But if you actually engage with it and think about what's going on, you do get the message.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's like
it's how television should
be. It has a purpose, you know? And yeah, after that scene, we get the stabbing scene, and then after that we get the scene with Ace and her cheetah girlfriend, which is what I want to talk about. This scene is weird. They
it really is.
Like, they exchange a lot of longing looks, and there's a moment where, like, they look each other in the eyes. We cut away to a different scene, and we come back, and they're still just staring into each other's eyes. Like, how long were they fucking looking deeply into one another's souls, you know? And eventually the cheetah's like, "I need water, please get me some water, because it's going to heal me up and make me good." And Ace is like, "Okay, I'm going to transport water with the cups of my hands." And have you ever tried picking water up with the cups of your hands and taking it anywhere?
No,
you spill it fucking instantly. Absolutely just comes out your hands. Like
I probably tried that as a kid, and when I realized, oh no, it's fucking slipping through my fingers. That's how water fucking works. I realized that when I was like 2.
Really hard to do. Yeah.
But yeah, but this is of course the lesbian subtext of the episode, and Rona Munro was like, "That was supposed to be my lesbian subtext, and you can't see any of it because of the fucking costumes." Like,
yeah, you can get a bit of it. Yeah, they linger on the shots a little bit longer, you know.
And she's also like, it was the 80s, and we were all really conscious that there were certain elements missing from mainstream culture, and as far as possible, if you get the chance to chuck them in there, you were duty bound to do it. If you know, this is the 1980s, of course. This is 1989. The AIDS it's not pandemic. Is it pandemic? The AIDS
epidemic.
The AIDS crisis was at its peak, basically, and there weren't any.
AIDS was a
gay.
epidemic.
I don't think and there weren't any like gay characters in British television, and if there was gay characters, it was, you know, a kind of a debate between characters being like, "Oh, being gay is wrong." That always had to be in there if you explicitly had a gay character. Like,
yeah,
like
it's so weird. It feels so foreign to me to imagine a world where like people just didn't acknowledge that gay people existed,
Yeah.
or like in media or in life. You know, it was like talked about in hushed tones and, you know, quiet whispers and rumors and hearsay, like that, you know. And I guess that's just the privilege of growing up in a modern era, because, like, you know, I was born in 2000, and sure, there was, you know, still a lot of homophobia and stuff, and there still is, but there's always been gay people on TV. As far as I can remember, you know, I've never been shocked at the presence of a gay person on my TV screen.
Yeah. This episode aired 8 years before I was born, and it is insane to consider, you know, like eight years and like 12 days, 6 days or something, because I was born December 12th. This episode aired like late November, early December. So 8 years. 8 years before I was born, and this was the presence of gay people in British television. 8 years after I was born, Captain Jack Harkness. Huge difference. Like, holy shit, man. Huge difference.
Yeah.
And to put it into context, homosexuality was a criminal offence up until 1980 in Scotland.
That's
fucking
crazy.
Insane to think about. 17
also
years
like,
before I was born.
That's one of those laws where I'm like, how the fuck do you enforce that?
Yeah.
How's that a law? How, like, unless you catch someone like in the middle of having gay sex.
Yeah, no, it's...
like that's really the only time that you could arrest them, you know.
And of course, the year before this, Margaret Thatcher introduced an amendment to the Local Government Act in 1988, banning state schools from teaching or promoting the acceptability of homosexuals or as a pretended family relationship. So, and it took 15 years to reverse this law. 2003, this law was reversed, which is depressing. And and of course, similar things are fucking happening across the world with trans people at the moment. It's really sad that the exact same things are happening. It's depressing.
They'll come for the furries next. It moves in a cycle.
And then this episode will truly age well.
Yes. They're always looking for a new target. There has to be somebody we can blame everything on. There has to be an enemy. There has to be a bad guy. What do you mean we're the bad guys? We're not the bad guys.
Just last night at work, 5 minutes to 10. We close at 10 o'clock. 5 minutes to 10, a racist customer comes in, and my colleague is black, and for some reason he thought I was Polish. So he also has an issue with Polish people and black people. Yeah. So, and then
why did he come in? Why?
And he's like, "Oh, I served in the army, and it's people like you ruining Scotland." And I'm just like,
awesome.
Just leave.
Yeah. Sounds like a really cool guy.
And his last words to me were, "I'll see you outside." I go outside. 5 minutes later, he wasn't outside.
Wow. Or maybe he was, but he saw you. You know,
but
just, like, I knew I'd see him.
It's pathetic. But like he said to me, people like you are ruining this country, and my response was, no, it's fucking people like you. Get out. Like he was completely hammered as well, surprisingly.
Of course he was. Yeah. That was kind of a given, I would imagine. You know,
the joys. The joys of the
sad.
world.
It's sad more than anything because, you know, that's a guy who's clearly been failed by the education system, by the benefit system, by the drug system, by just every single system has consistently failed this guy, and he has lashed out at, you know, the most obvious of fake enemies because people are susceptible to basic propaganda. And, you know, I bet he's a big fan of the Reform Party and Nigel Farage and all that shit. Like, all that nonsense is just tragic, you know?
It's interesting because we'll be bringing up the Reform Party next week because the next episode of Doctor Who we're covering is Robot, and there's a party in that episode called the Reform Party. I think it's called the Scientific Reform Party or something like that. But it is basically
got
reform.
My vote. They've got my vote.
So yeah, it's an interesting time to talk politics.
Yeah, it's always bad. But yeah, anyway, so Ace like kind of saves this tiger person after giving them the water, and the doctor finds them and is like, "Hey, yo, Ace, what you doing? We need to like get the fuck out of here. You know, let's gather everybody up and get the hell out of here." Meanwhile, the master is like cutting up a length of rope, and we have a couple pretty shots off the moon over the lake, which they through the extra effort of setting up a pink light to reflect on the water, so you get the idea that the moon is casting light onto the water, which is a really nice little detail, you know.
Yeah, sometimes the water does look blue instead of pink, but it's you know, it can be forgiven for shots like this where the extra effort. They really went the extra effort in some of these shots.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. And Ace also goes on to talk about how she's starting to feel at home on the planet now, and just starting to feel comfortable and like it's where she belongs, and that she can smell pictures. And
she's like, "Oh, I can smell smells like as clear as a picture," and it's like,
yeah,
I get where you're coming from, because you know,
I can smell as clear as a picture, which is a like it's a clunky metaphor. I don't think it works as it's one of those ones that kind of sounds better in your head, I guess, than it does actually out loud. You say it out loud, you're like, hang on, does that?
but the doctor is basically warning her the entire time in this scene about you can't become too attracted to what's going on in this world, and you know, it's a metaphor about cheetahs in real life. They're gorgeous creatures, but you can't get too close because they're also fucking dangerous. You know, it's a constant battle between the beauty of nature and the downsides of nature, I guess. A lot of politics in this episode. It's almost as if science fiction is always fucking political.
Don't see it. I don't think so. It's called science fiction. Not science politics. In the big group of people, one of the Ace's friends, the guy that killed the tiger, is like, "I'm a tiger boy now, rah!" And he's got like he like scatters off into the desert, and he's got little vampire teeth. Yeah. And the introduction of the vampire teeth, like because obviously they're just cat's teeth because the people are turning into tiger or cheetahs or whatever the fuck, but they just look like vampires. And I didn't know how I felt about it. I don't know how I feel about it still. Yeah, it's all right.
That's the problem with this episode. You know, that's the intended look for all the cheetah people originally, but then John Nathan Turner is like, no, we need more of a monster. We need more of a cheetah costume. And also, you know, the story before this was just sorry, I can scroll down and find out the title. The Curse of Fenric, which were basically, they were sea vampires, essentially. You know, Curse of Fenric had also vampire people. And I could imagine also the thought of, 7 weeks in a row where we're basically being chased around by vampire people. It's going to become a bit of a problem. So let's add the cheetah costumes. I'm fine with the teeth, but I think there needs to be a bit more. Let's make them look more cat-like. Add cat ears. I don't know. That would look terrible.
Yeah, that would look terrible. Yeah, I don't really know how else you make them look more cat-like. I guess cat eyes. They kind of got like this glowing eye thing going on, but it doesn't quite translate as well. They just kind of look demonic and like vampires still.
But
give him a tail. Give him a big tail. Give everybody a big tail.
Yeah, here we get a scene of Sylvester McCoy going up to Midge, and he's wearing a necklace of like a tooth or something. I'm not entirely sure, but apparently the actor had forgotten to put on the tooth that day, so they had to reshoot all of his scenes for that day. And this guy Will Barton was panicking. He was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get fucking fired, or I'm gonna get yelled at. I'm never gonna work in this industry again." But it's not his fault, So stuff happens. It's the makeup people and the continuity people who need to focus and stuff like that. It is so hard to focus on continuity. I've made student films, and it is just so hard to pay attention to everything going on in a set.
You gotta be tuned in. You gotta be locked in for sure, and have a team of people paying attention who are also locked in. It's a collaborative effort. That's the joy and the pain of filmmaking. It takes an army of people. But everybody in the group starts playing Among Us pretty soon afterwards because they're like, hey, any one of us could turn into a cat person. You're acting pretty sus. I saw you meow earlier. But eventually it is Ace who reveals herself to be the sussy Baka, as she has got glowing eyes.
Yes.
And smirks to the camera. And then it's a hard cut to credits. Which I've actually found quite effective as a cliffhanger, because it's like, oh shit, oh that's the end, holy fuck. But it's very sudden. I don't remember because usually like the music like plays like slightly before the credits come in to lead you. Like this just cuts straight into the credits with the music playing. It's very sudden.
And apparently it was effective to children in 1989 as well, because 5 minutes after this episode aired, Sophie Aldred got a knock on the door, and it's her little like 8-year-old neighbor, and he's in a complete panic and worried about Sophie. And he's just knocking on the door and like, are you okay? Which is cute. A little detail we kind of skipped over is that we find out the master was kind of building a leash out of the carcass. And he's tied the leash to Midge because the cheetah people can go back home with their prey. And the doctor kind of planted the idea in the master's head because he was eavesdropping about this idea that, you know, if a human turns into a cheetah person, they can teleport back home. And the master is obviously trying to get back to Earth, which is it's clever. It's a clever way to get out of this planet, I think. Because there's an added danger to it as well if you get possessed by the planet. It's clever.
Yeah. It's you know, they could have cheaped out and just been like, I summoned the TARDIS with the button press or whatever the fuck. But it's a fun way of setting something up, I guess.
I think another thing that we kind of glossed over is the master tells the doctor that this planet will eventually turn everyone into a cheetah person. So there's a kind of race against the clock the entire story, which I fucking love. A race against the clock. It adds so much extra tension to a story rather than just, oh, they were here for like 60 days and they just waited around for an opportunity to escape.
Yeah. Sometimes you do need a ticking clock for sure. It adds stakes. You know, it gives a finite point. Otherwise, like, what's really the motive to be doing anything right now? You know, I'll get round to it when I get round to it, sort of things. Deadlines, they're important. But that is episode 2 of Survival. A solid episode. Yeah. It's definitely the middle episode, you know, where it's got some stuff going on, but it's really there to give you the exposition dumps and the like, okay, let's try and get like, okay, this is the actual plot, you know, like the first bit's the setup, this is here the plot comes in. Next episode's the giant conclusion, the big exciting end. Is it as exciting as it promises to be?
Yeah.
Did it promise to be exciting to begin with? I guess we'll find out almost immediately as we jump straight in to part 3 of the Scream. I was going to say the Scream of the Shalka. Fuck my brain. We're going into Survival.
I would rather not fuck your brain.
we're going into Survival. Survival part 3.
Good hunting.
Yes. Would have been too easy. Seems we must always meet again.
They do say opposites attract.
But this is the end, Doctor. You see it? It's a power from that planet. It's growing within me. Are you frightened yet?
No.
You should be. You should be. It nearly beat me. Such a simple, brutal power, just the power of tooth and claw. It nearly destroyed me, a Time Lord. But I won. I controlled that force, Doctor. And now, at last, I have the power to destroy you.
Welcome to my new home, Doctor.
What am I doing? I've got to stop. We've got to go.
Can't go. Not this time.
Yes, we can.
Escape to what? I don't choose to live as an animal.
If we fight, we will destroy this planet. We will destroy ourselves.
You should have killed me.
If we fight like animals, we'll die like animals! If we fight like animals, we die like animals!
Part 3, the final part of Survival, and it opens up where we left off with the Master running away and Ace revealing herself to be a cat person. And then they get a really interesting slow motion scene to open this episode up.
This slow motion scene reminds me of Baywatch. just a cat lady and Ace just running on the
running, and it goes on for so long. Like they're running in slow motion for so fucking long, way longer than they need to be. And I don't know if I would necessarily have a problem with it, but I think it's the one time where the soundtrack fails. It's like the soundtrack throughout this entire story has been like the best thing. Like it is just fucking firing on all cylinders. But like during this weird running scene, I don't know, maybe it's just like I kind of want some romantic music or some smooth jazz or a saxophone or something. But we can't, it's kind of like nothing. There's like I don't know, it's like weird like nothingness. It feels very empty, you know?
To be fair, I don't think anybody realized there would be any, like, romantic undertones. Like, even the actress, Lisa Barman, playing Kara, is like, I had fucking no idea there was any kind of romantic subtext to this. So
yeah. Well, I guess, like, in 1989, the idea of someone in a cheetah costume being, like, sexy or sexually involved with somebody else is maybe a foreign concept. You know, because they haven't been corrupted. Yeah, they haven't been corrupted by the power of the internet just yet. You know, their minds haven't been open to the wonders that heard to before. Remember when John Barrowman got to see? Not John Barrowman, sorry. Fucking Dan. What's his name?
John Bishop, yes.
John Bishop got to see the furry art of him in Carvanista.
It was probably the best part of Flux because
it was my favorite part.
The John Bishop talk show just happened to air around the time of Flux, so he was able to get a picture of Dan fucking Carvanista fucking Dan, whatever way it was. You might
I'm just so glad he's aware of it. It's incredible, absolutely fantastic.
And I would say Carvanista is another good animal costume, and not as good as the cat nurses because it's COVID times and they probably didn't get enough budget to fix the suit for this particular actor. But you know, decent costume.
It's fine. It's not great.
Carvanista is coming back in the audio.
Is he? Oh,
drama.
yeah. Like everyone in Jodie's era is now on Big Finish. So.
I think it's classic Doctor's new monsters, so he's either going to interact with Sylvester McCoy or Peter Davison or Colin Baker. I'm not sure which one, but interesting.
Yeah, they never really figured out.
Carvanista was like the Doctor's first companion, wasn't he?
He was a companion, yeah. I was about to say, they never really figured out Carvanista's deal because he was a companion with the Doctor, or he was like an agent of the Division or something. And then he had poison in his brain, so he couldn't talk about it. He couldn't tell anybody because he would die because of the poison in his brain. It was so dumb.
We need to cover Flux.
Also, he's like a million years old or something because he's as old as the Doctor, I guess, or I don't really know, or maybe I guess just the time, because Time Machine, like maybe that version of the Doctor just picked them up wherever the fuck. But yeah, I don't know how it works.
I'd be down to do a commentary series on Flux again someday. It's been a while. I feel like we could have fun.
I've seen it so many times. We then cut to a scene in Earth with the Master and his new boy toy Midge, who is like transforming into a cat. There's a nice little bit of like imagery with the picture of the cheetahs on the wall with the big cheetah looking after the little cheetah, and there's also a really I think maybe one of the better scenes with the Master in this story, where he's talking to himself in the reflection when he's like, you know, you're strong-willed and you're powerful, and you know, if you do turn into a cat, you're gonna kill the fuck out the Doctor, and it's a relatively menacing scene and a pretty strong performance. you know.
Again, I just almost wish there was like one more episode to have more of the Master and his evil plan here. I feel like there could have been 2 more episodes after they escape from the planet and just have the Master and the Doctor at, you know, just fighting. I feel like that could have been it.
Yeah. Yeah, but with what we get, you know, I'm not going to complain at a story being 3 episodes long, because I'll take it when we get it, and I like the scenes that we have with the Master in them, but he's basically like training up Midge and brainwashing him a little bit. Does he hypnotize him? Is that what we're trying to get at when he's? I mean, like,
no, I don't think
does he even need to hypnotise him?
No,
Like,
I think he's just becoming corrupt and.
But like Midge like starts repeating his lines of dialogue, you know, kind of like he would do if he was hypnotized by the Master.
Oh, the repeating of the lines of the dialogue is fucking hysterical. I can't stop.
Yeah, he does a
laughing
weird.
about
He
that.
does like a spooky like Batman voice when he's doing it. It's a choice. It's definitely a choice that he made to make.
I feel like he would be a bit more kind of robotic and kind of like not as emotive in his speech if he was being hypnotized by the Master. He's way too expressive to have been hypnotized. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's. I don't know. It's communicated weirdly. Whatever it is they were trying to do with it, it's a weird choice. But back on the planet of the cheetahs, Ace is having a gay old time with her cheetah sister.
Yeah.
Kara, who's basically just showing her the ropes of how cool it could be to be a cheetah and like how cool it is and how fun it is to hunt and feel the like heightened senses and things like that, while the Doctor tries to look for her and find her. And it all.
Sorry,
I thought you were gonna say something.
I was going to say something. The idea of this being the final episode is such a happy accident because, you know, when we first meet Ace, she's like a rebellious teenager who just wants to explode stuff and fight against the power and all that kind of good stuff in Dragonfire. And the Doctor kind of takes her under his wing to kind of like My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn, you know. Was it Audrey Hepburn? It's been a while.
No idea.
But you know the idea of trying to turn Ace into a civilized woman, and now in her final episode, she's again pulled into this kind of rebellious and carefree, spirited lifestyle, which is a happy accident. This is the final episode that aired. You know, it's kind of like a full arc for Ace. She at the end of the episode, she chooses a civilized life almost. It's really smart.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good, and it you know, when the Doctor tracks her down and he stands and he poses, it's really like he full on poses to get that silhouette when he's got his umbrella and he's standing like, I'm the Doctor, look at me, and he's like, you know, you have to choose, Ace, like you're gonna come with me or do you want to be a cat person, but he doesn't really use those words. He's just kind of like, Ace, come home, you know, and it's enough to pull Ace back into being a human, at least momentarily, and they embrace.
What I do love about this is the Doctor gives her the option. You can either stay here. I think it's in a later scene. You can either stay here, or I'll bring you back and I'll try to help you with this possession that's going on.
It's literally the next scene when he's like, you know, the choice is yours to take us home or not if you want to do that.
But again, you know, the idea of giving a woman a choice of what to do with, technically what to do with her body, because her body is transforming here, is an interesting thing, and it's a kind of thing you get with a female writer. I feel like, you know, the agency that Ace has here, the choices that she's free to make here.
It's kind of a hard. A bullshit choice to give Ace though, because like all of her friends are kind of wanting to go home. And are entirely reliant on her. But the sentiment is good, and I do like that the Doctor is like, if she wanted to be a cheetah person, he would just be like, okay,
I guess I'll visit you on weekends or something. I don't know.
You're just another person I'm gonna leave behind, I guess. Bye. But they do end up leaving to head back to Earth, and suddenly 8 minutes into the episode, it feels like the end of the episode. They come out in the TARDIS, everybody says their thanks and runs off back home. We get a nice bit of homophobia from the drill sergeant guy.
Because to escape Earth, we all have to hold hands because the teleportation effects are the cheapest part of the episode. I feel like it's just flashlight.
Yeah,
and then which
and then
you know it's the best way of doing this because we can physically do the teleportation effect a lot of setup. So it's a cheap way to just quickly get through to the next scene. I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's effective. You understand what's going on. But yeah, everybody splits off to head on home, and Ace is basically like, cool, well, let's just go in the TARDIS and wrap this story up. Hey, job's done. Kind of forgetting that she's a cheetah person.
Yeah.
I feel like she's just kind of brushing that under the rug. Like she's in the middle of transforming into a cheetah person. But the Doctor's not ready to give up just yet because he's like, hey, we didn't solve the Master problem. We just kind of forgot about him there, and he's here with Midge, so we should kind of figure out what those guys are up to and find out where they're going, and the adventure continues on.
This is kind of like the end of Alien, which is a movie that invented the fourth act, where you think things are all over, and then suddenly, oh shit, the alien is in the capsule with Ripley.
Yeah, it's not over.
But I like it. It's a good way to continue the episode because the episode is drastically different from this point on. It's an interesting ending to this episode, I feel like.
Yeah, but we'll get to it. We go to Midge briefly, who's checking out motorbikes because he's so cool, and he's got his cool voice, and he's super cool. And we then go into it's like a nothing scene. The Master's there, and
which is interesting because the TV movie also has a lot of riding around in motorbikes. The Doctor spends a lot of time.
They're cool.
And also, Midge here is kind of dressed up like the TV Master is. The sunglasses and the leather coat, which is way too small for this guy.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad costume. The Doctor and Ace break into Midge's apartment, his flat that he stays in, and they see a dead cat ripped open on the floor. It would be gruesome if it didn't look so shit.
I feel like you could have darkened that corner of the room a little bit more and have the camera focus on it a little bit less.
But the scene does get continuously dark when we hear crying from a small child, and Midge's little sister comes out from her hiding spot in the back of the room, wherever the fuck she is, and she's like, my cat is dead, but like they killed my cat, what the fuck? And it's just like splayed out on the floor. Like, it's fucking brutal. There's this little girl crying over her dead pet, and there's literally nothing they can do to solve that problem. Like, your cat was murdered in front of your eyes. So like,
I don't know why this little girl is just home alone. It just but I guess it is the 80s, kids can just do whatever they want. Like in Stranger Things, where they can just run into the woods for however long they want. The 80s, baby.
When I was I don't know what it was like in growing up in a populated area, but like Stranger Things is set in like the suburbs or whatever the fuck, and I grew up in the countryside, and when I was a kid, like, everybody rode their bikes everywhere, and like your time to get home was when the street lights turn on, I guess, or whenever you feel like it. And we spent many hours just roaming the woods and exploring the countryside, and nobody ever died.
Up until I was
abducted.
Up until I was like 7 or 8, I was never really allowed to cross streets by myself, so I could just walk around the block.
Wow.
And that was basically it. That's all I could do.
Wow.
But it was a big block, so it was like, like a 15-minute walk to get around the entire circle. So it wasn't too bad.
I was allowed to explore, go around, fuck off around the village the whole day, get up to mischief, become a hoodlum. mug some people. We get probably the cringiest scene in the entire fucking episode next, which is with Midge coming into the. It is Midge, right? He's almost unrecognizable in this outfit that he's wearing. He comes into the like youth center, the training room where everyone's doing their self-defense training, and he is supposed to look cool. He's supposed to be badass.
Yeah.
And he's wearing a red shirt, a weird wavy patterned tie, really big sunglasses. He's got like kind of brushed over smart looking hair, and the single worst looking suit jacket I've ever seen in my entire life, which is like a regular like suit, like chest bit and leather arms. It's the most 1980s suit I've ever fucking seen. It is disgusting. It is genuinely awful looking. You know?
It's an interesting choice for his outfit for sure. Yeah.
Fucking horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
It's like they just had no time, so we just took out whatever they could find.
I reckon they thought it was cool. I reckon this was cool.
I hope not.
I reckon they thought he looked badass. They were like, hell yeah, you look like $1 million, even though the suit is like definitely too big for him. Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. We then get another scene with the little girl and the doctor and Ace, where she's like, did Mitch kill her mom? Because he's like, Mitch made mom go away. Made mom go away. I'm like, did you murder the mom as well and just leave you? Like, what the fuck is that about?
Mitch went away, and when he came back, he's my big brother. He's got funny eyes now.
Yeah.
He made her mum go away. But
yeah.
I guess.
What does that mean?
Maybe it does imply that he
just murdered. This girl's having a terrible day.
Well, apparently the actress had a nice day. You know, Sophie was really lovely to her, which tracks because when we met Sophie, she was just the loveliest person.
She was very nice.
You know?
Yeah, she was very nice.
Very nice. Apparently, this little girl went on to do Emmerdale for like 19 years, from like 1993 to 2011 or something like that.
Damn.
Which is a long time, you know.
It is a long time, but I fucking like what a paycheck.
Yeah.
Like what? Like an absolute easy way. Like when you're young to be like, cool, I'm just gonna build my savings up, and now I never have to worry again. You know, I spent like a decent chunk of my young age like acting on TV, sorted. You know, respect.
You would hope so. You would hope.
Yeah,
that she's
you would
got
hope so.
good
Probably the parents
future
stole it.
ahead of
That's
her.
usually what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Usually the parents take it. Yeah.
Good business. Great times.
But this is also where we get another hint at Ace being a cat person, if we forgot that was the thing, when her eyes start glowing again and the little girl goes, oh my god, bad cat man, which is a really bad line of dialogue. That's a really terrible line of dialogue.
It's a really bad line of dialogue that most adult actors can't pull off well.
Yeah.
Never mind a kid
child.
actor who isn't really aware of what's going on in the script.
Yeah,
she must have been so confused about what the hell's going on.
A kid actor from 1989, like kid actors, I think these days are much better because they've grown up with media and the internet and TV and things like that, so they kind of get the idea. You're a little kid in the 1980s. You know what TV is, but you don't know how they make it.
Yeah.
You don't really know what acting is. Everything's kind of magic and real. So, like, that's why I think there's such a stark difference between kids' performances these days and kids' performances before.
Because I was 7 years old when I figured out what the fuck TV was. Like, I just thought it was little people stuck inside my television set,
like the little men in the cameras.
But Doctor Who Confidential fucking changed my mind about that. That blew me away to find out, you can act. This is a job. I want to be an actor.
Yeah, no, you don't. Who wants to
I used to think cartoons fucking worked like Roger Rabbit, like I thought you could just...
Oh, right, like they were real. You were an interesting kid. It wasn't all there, was it? It wasn't... It took a minute. It took a minute for everything to come together in your head.
Leave me alone. I had a rough childhood.
Yeah. Okay,
not as rough as this kid has it, though. You know.
Yeah, this kid's got it pretty fucking bad. Let's see where this goes as we wrap up part 3 of Survival. So the episode continues on into the I was gonna call it a dojo, into the dojo with Midge and the Master watching on from outside as Midge is giving this like roaring speech of like, you've got to be badass and cool to be badass and cool, you know, you want to be badass and cool like me and my cool badass glasses, and I never quite believe a single word coming out of his mouth.
No, he's kind of too soft for this role, and you can tell this is his first like TV performance because I don't think he's as strong as he should be.
Yeah, I don't think he's as strong as he should be either. I find him to be, it's just unbelievable. Like, I don't believe any of the lines that he's saying or delivering. He's got like, I don't know, I reckon he could maybe get away with the like badass if there was a bit more intensity to some of his line delivery, but it's just not quite hitting right. I don't know, but yeah, he does have a soft face as well, which kind of undermines a lot of the intimidation he's supposed to be giving off, because he just looks like a nice guy, you know. He seems like a nice dude.
And some of the other dudes that he's talking to here, some of the other dudes are like massive,
they're real big,
dudes.
Yeah.
And there's a big size difference as well. It's like,
which I think like that could add to it, you know, like this little scrawny guy comes in and is like, I could beat you all up. And, you know, like, you got to show like you're badass, which I guess is kind of the point when the army guy comes back in and he gets murdered, because that's like Midge showing like how badass and cool he is.
I love how this army dude just walks in like nothing happened. Like, his jacket isn't completely torn. You know?
He's so unbelievably committed to the bit of, you know, like, I have to teach self-defense. I really need to teach self-defense. I have to. It's my one driving force in life is to teach self-defense. And then he doesn't even defend himself. He just dies. Which I knew he died, and you gaslit me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I completely forgot he got murdered here. I thought you were referring to him dying on the planet. I'm sorry.
I just knew he died at some point, you know. And the Doctor and Ace find his dead body and just leave it there. They're just like, damn, this dude's dead. Oh well, I guess we've got to hunt down where Midge and that is, and they use Ace's cat-like senses to follow the trail and track them down. And they very conveniently find a motorbike on a field waiting for them. As you know, I guess this is where the big battle is gonna be across the way. And Ace is like struggling to control her cat-like problems at this point, you know, and she's like, I keep slipping into being a cat, I don't even realize it anymore. And you know, I feel like they set up a lot of interesting stuff with Ace and turning into a cheetah person, and there's no payoff to it.
But again, there's some elements like that I just wish we could dive deeper into. That's why I want a 4th episode. I really want to dive deeper into this conflict here, but there's a lot to juggle here between all the characters. There's
a lot of moving parts for sure. There's a lot of concepts being introduced in just 3 episodes, you know. But
again, wanting more is so much better than wanting
it to end.
You were put out to your fucking agony.
Yeah, just wanting it to be over. We then get into the action scene for this episode, which involves a gang of men appearing over the hill, led by the Master and by Midge. And Midge is atop of a motorcycle, or he climbs onto a motorcycle.
Oh, that fucking shot of Midge on a motorcycle coming up over the hill and doing like a little bunny hop thing.
Little jump, yeah.
It's fucking cool. That's fucking
looked like it would have hurt his testicles. It would have sucked, I bet.
And apparently that's the only stunt that's the only motorbike stunt in this episode that he didn't do himself. But he could ride the motorbike perfectly. And so did Sylvester McCoy. Like, everybody's doing their own stunts essentially, which is dangerous. Because we'll
It's
get
the last
into it,
episode. It's the last episode. You can do what you like.
Who cares if your actor
Yeah.
dies?
It's the last episode. You know.
So the scene starts with Ace trying to ride the motorcycle first, but the doctor pulls her off, which was a big annoyance to Sophie because she had been asking Andrew Cartmel to do her own motorbike stunt the entire time, the entire 2 years she's been on the show. She's just been begging Andrew to do a motorbike stunt. And the first time she gets on a motorbike, she gets fucking pulled off immediately. You know?
Yeah.
How annoying must that be? Because, you know, she could actually ride a motorbike. She showed up to her audition in leather on a motorbike. And that's partly why she got cast. Because it's like, yeah, this is a rebellious teenager. Let's cast her. Like, it's perfect for Ace. And she just never gets a chance to ride a motorbike, which is a huge shame. Does she ride a motorbike in Power of the Doctor?
I don't remember. I couldn't
It's been
remember
a
a detail
while.
that small. Yeah, no. I know she parachutes at one point.
Yeah,
And it looked really bad.
Yeah.
But
this is Sylvester McCoy's first time on a motorbike, I believe. And he rides the bike and he's going forward. Suddenly he realizes he doesn't know where the fucking brakes are. And there's kind of a cliff ahead of him, like a small incline. And he's like, "Oh fuck, I could die here." so he tries to jump off the motorbike, and luckily he wasn't hurt. The motorbike wasn't damaged. But Jesus, tell the guy where the fucking brakes are. What the fuck?
Yeah, I would want like a once over of like, here's how everything works and you know, like what it does.
Just the safety standards of 1980s, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And this is towards the end of the day. They have to finish shooting at 6 o'clock in the day, and there's a lot of stuff in this sequence here that had to be cut out because of time restrictions. We'll get into it, but Jesus, what a nightmare.
Yeah. And so the Midge and the Doctor basically have like a jousting contest with motorcycles where they just ride the motorcycles like head on to each other, and it turns into a cartoon, and I don't like it. Where they crash the motorcycles into one another, and there's a big explosion, and Midge goes flying, and he flops to the ground, and it's a really weird looking shot, and he's got soot all over his face, as if like he's looked down an exhaust pipe and it's like it's got like and blowing smoke in it, and it looks terrible. And we later see the Doctor with his ass in the air, like reality just goes out the window, and like they just become cartoon characters.
Midge kind of looks like the guy. He kind of looks like Osgood in the Demons. You remember? It's been a while since we covered that episode, like 3.5 years ago. But if you look up Osgood in the Demons, you'll see the picture of him like with a suit in his face. We talked about it at the time. You played a Simpsons clip. I remember that. But with this motorbike crash, Midge was supposed to come out of the crash burnt to death with a melted face. But as I said, this was recorded near 6 o'clock, and we had to stop shooting around this time. So they were like, "Okay, we're running out of time. We can't apply the makeup to you. Let's just rub some dirt on your face, I guess." It looks good enough.
I would have liked to see burnt face man, Midge. I think that would have been pretty interesting, and again laid into some of the more grotesque nature that you've seen in this episode, some of the more gory violence, and I think that would have been way more effective because just the suit on the face is really disappointing, you know.
And the idea was that his friends from the youth center would murder Midge in this scene, because survival of the fittest, you have to murder the weakest person in your group, because that's the way animals roll, baby. And it's the entire point of the episode, that the survival of the fittest. And instead, John Nathan Turner is like, "Oh, that's actually too much for like a kids-centric program. We need to just have him die of natural causes." But without the melted face, he just kind of collapses. It doesn't. It's
internal
not believable.
bleeding. Just lots of internal bleeding.
I guess
all of his damage is on the inside. You know, like he doesn't have a rib cage anymore. It's all goop. It's all just big soup.
But in this scene, Ace, as the people walk over his Midge's dead body, Ace just starts screaming, and there's no tension at all, because we didn't see the people just murder Midge. There'd be more tension if
Yeah.
Midge was just murdered. It's lacking.
I get that. I kind of liked the what Ace does here, purely because it really shows how much she has changed and how much becoming a cheetah person has affected her. Because if this was Ace, even in like the last episode, she would be like, let's fucking go, let's fight, boys, yeah, and take them all on. But she knows that she can't do that now.
Yeah.
Because if she does that, she's going to lose herself. So she's left with nothing to do but to shout for help. And which kind of turns her into a bit of a damsel in distress, but I think it's okay, and like I feel like it effective for the way that the plot is set up to be. And she gets rescued by her knight in shining armor, literally on horseback, when the cheetah person Kara arrives and scares away all the boys, I guess, but then just gets stabbed by the Masters. So who even gives a fuck, you know?
Because she kills all the guys, or scares off the guys, and she just kind of rides around on horseback for like 10 seconds. I think she does like a complete 360 around in a circle. And the music is doing all of the heavy tension in this scene. Like, the only reason this is kind of cool is because of the guitar just going off, you know? I mean, the Master is like, oh, I control you. You can't hurt me. And I guess, the Master murders her, which
just stabs her.
Turns her into a human again?
I guess,
really sure.
Which is some logic, I guess. And then the Master like runs off and like stares at the Doctor's ass for a minute before running off again.
In the script, the Doctor was supposed to be in a pile of rubble, not with his ass bent over a fucking couch, ready to be butt fucked by the Master. You know, like the way this comes. I've seen this clip out of context. Just the Doctor's ass in the air and the Master coming over, giggling,
and looking at it. Yeah,
like you almost expect him to say, "You're about to find out why I'm called the Master" or something. You know. But the Doctor was supposed to be half buried under rubble and rubbish, but instead his ass is just bent over a sofa. You're supposed to believe he's dead, but it looks like it's almost comedic. Comfy. It looks almost comfy the way he's lying there.
It's too goofy to buy into the possibility that he could be dead. It's very silly. But the Master goes off to steal the TARDIS with just like a lockpick or something. He's just like straight up like, I'm just gonna lockpick this TARDIS now.
We do get a scene where Kara is dying in Ace's arms, which now that she's human, I guess there's a bit more of a these are kind of romantic people, you know.
I feel the romantic tension less when she's human.
Yeah. Okay.
I felt it more when she was
that says a lot about you.
Does it? I don't know. I feel like it says a lot about the costume. The stupidly sexy cheetah costume.
Sexy cheetahs. The bike scene took so much time to set up. Lisa Barrowman spent the entire day on standby. She started the day at 7 a.m. and didn't get to shoot this scene until 4:30 in the afternoon. So she's spending, that's like, almost 10 hours? Insane. But she spent most of the day putting in and taking out her contact lenses, which obviously irritated her eyes because she's constantly touching her eyeballs.
I would have just kept them out until I was told, okay, you're going on screen, you know.
But if you notice in this scene, she can barely fucking open her eyes because her eyes are just so sore.
Yeah.
Sounds like
anything that adds to the she's dying part, you know.
Yeah. Obviously Sophie also had issues with her eyes because whenever Sophie is supposed to be wearing the contact lenses, her eyes are kind of squinting because she just is in agony as well. Like, everybody's having a hard time with these contact lenses. The next scene, we get the Master and the Doctor kind of having a confrontation in front of the TARDIS.
It's the best scene. It's the best scene in all 3 episodes.
Yeah, do you want to talk about it a bit?
I don't know. They have a confrontation, and the Doctor's all like, I don't know. It feels climactic. You know, it actually feels dramatic, and like these two characters are finally coming to a head. They're finally going to come to blows. You know, and the Master's like adamant that he's won. The Doctor's like, no, I'm not backing down. You know, like this isn't over or anything. And then when they actually go to like like basically just have fisticuffs, you know, like they get teleported back to the cheetah planet. But there was just this moment when I was watching it when they're swirling around each other and they're having this really intense discussion. And the master's like, you know, like the power is that strong that it almost corrupted me, a Time Lord. You know, it's this like insane power. They're just doing it in like someone's garden. And I was like, God, Doctor Who's a silly show, isn't it? Doctor Who's a ridiculous show. Like,
but yeah, the camera movements really add to a scene, because any other director would have just shot it blank, you know, just Doctor here, Master here, let's put the camera on a tripod and just have him stand still. But instead, the Master is constantly walking circles around the Doctor.
Yeah, there's a lot of good motion.
The Master is going anti-clockwise, and I think the camera is going clockwise, so there's a lot of good blocking going on. It's interesting to look at, which
and
it's hard to say for most classic Doctor Who. This is interesting to look at.
And when the music kicks in when they travel to the cheetah planet and you've got that guitar going again, it's genuinely cool as fuck. It's super 80s. It's incredibly 80s, but in the best possible way. You know, it's cool as fuck.
The fire effects don't look great, but it is a vibe. You know, it's a vibe. I prefer a vibe to just bad effects. You know, the guitar adds to the vibe. And you'll notice that Sylvester McCoy is also wearing contact lenses in this scene as he's giving him more to his animal instincts. Sylvester was told he wouldn't have to wear contacts, but suddenly last minute he found out he did have to wear them. And all the other actors got plenty of time to get used to the contact lenses. Like the actor who played Midge wore them constantly when he's out shopping, so he would just show up to the shops and look at the cashier with his yellow eyes. But Sylvester McCoy didn't get any tests with it, and apparently there were sand in the contact lenses he was given, which honestly must have been the worst. And then Anthony Ainsley accidentally hits him on the wrist with is it a tooth? He accidentally hits the Doctor on the wrist by mistake, and Sylvester McCoy is like, oh fuck, thank God my wrist is in agony because I forgot all about my eyes because you hurt my wrist. Like, poor Sylvester McCoy, Jesus.
Yeah, tough day at the office that day. The fight is kind of fun, and I like the drama to it. And the Doctor shouts like, "If we fight like animals, we die like animals." And then he just gets teleported back to Earth.
And he says the same thing again.
He shouts again, "If we fight like animals." It doesn't work as well the second time. It's so effective the first time, and it immediately undermined.
It feels like the intention was for him to say, "If we fight like animals," and then he do the cut to
match cut.
We die like animals. But instead, the editor just decided to play both clips in full.
It's really weird. It's really weird. It totally kills the momentum of the scene. And I was just left being like, what the fuck happened? How did they get out of this? And it's just like, it's over. And then some random ass lady comes over and she's like, "I fucking hate cats fighting, don't you?" And it's like, what happened to the cool scene?
And it's a blonde lady in a ponytail, so the fan theory is this is Jackie Tyler, which doesn't fucking make any sense. It is roughly the same age as Jackie would be at this time, but no, it doesn't make any sense. What
if it's like Jackie's cousin or something?
I'm sure Big Finish explored that.
I can get on board with that.
But it is weird because she's like the most normal person in classic Doctor Who almost. She's just like somebody you would meet on just a street corner.
But she we go back to Ace, who's finds the Doctor's hat and is basically just like, "Oh, the Doctor's dead. I guess I'm just stuck here, being sad that the Doctor is dead." But then the Doctor shows up again, takes his hat, and is like, "Hey, Ace, what's up? Let's go on have some adventures back in the TARDIS." And he gives his big famous, final monologue into the thing where he's like, ends with saying, "We've got so much more adventures to do yet," and the credits come in. It's a really nice ending to the episode, but I feel like there's still plot threads that haven't been answered.
It's when they teleport to that planet, you feel like there's more to it. I mean, it's just something
and it's just over.
anticlimactically. it was a lot of everything got wrapped up, I would say, in a fairly satisfying manner if you look at all the plot threads landed. But
It's like
there's
everything
not
but
enough
the
time to
master.
explore.
It's like everything but the master kind of gets
Yeah.
figured out. There's not really a conclusion to it. It just kind of is over, and the doctor's just like, the doctor's straight up like, I don't know what happened. I honestly couldn't tell you. No idea. Anyway, let's go. And they never solve Ace's cat problem. She's still turning into a cheetah
I
person,
think the
presumably.
link got cut off because the planet is getting destroyed. The planet
I
is
guess?
like 20 minutes from getting destroyed, and somehow the Master escaped, because of course he does. And the next time we see the
does that,
Master,
yeah, he's a snake man.
No, he's getting executed by the Daleks, the squeaky voiced
Yeah.
Daleks in the TV movie.
Yeah, and becoming a snake man.
So Andrew Cartmel wrote this final last minute speech. It was recorded on November 23rd, 1989. Of course, the show's 26th anniversary, which is kind of an incredible way to do your final recording on the show on November 23rd.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was Doctor Who for like 6 years.
The
which
last
is-
ever episode of Doctor Who.
Which is depressing because this is a really good story, you know? it's almost good that it ended on a high, because if it ended with a shit episode like Dragonfire...
You wouldn't want more. Yeah.
No, you
You'd
wouldn't
be like,
want more.
I'm glad it's over. It needed to be done. You know?
Yeah, I don't think you would get Doctor Who in 2005. Like, if everybody's last memories of Doctor Who was how shit it was, you wouldn't get Doctor Who to this day.
It would be a novelty. Like, remember this weird sci-fi show that ran for 20 years on BBC? You know, remember how camp and bad it was and nobody liked it. You know, and let's never bring that back. You know, I guess Big Finish might still exist, but I feel like it would just be Big Finish.
Yeah.
You know.
And maybe Big Finish still wouldn't, you know, I could imagine Big Finish not being around to this day, you know. I could imagine their funds drying up in like 2007 or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is a really good final episode, and it's closer to modern Who than you would realize almost. It's like...
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's really solid, and I had fun, you know.
I had fun as well. I thought it was, out of a lot of the classic Who we've covered, it's probably up there with some of the best. It's definitely a very enjoyable Sylvester McCoy episode for sure. I had a good time with it. It goes by quick. The pacing is pretty solid. You know, it doesn't feel like a drag at any point.
Maybe a bit too quick.
Yeah, a bit too quick at times
paced,
sometimes. Yeah.
But just the final 7 episodes of the show being 4-parter with The Curse of Fenric, which we both really enjoyed. You know, that has deep themes of like faith and religion, and you know, everything with Ace's mum in that story is great as well. Like, that story is really solid. Like, a great guest performance from a TV show host playing the vicar. Like, really good episode. And then you have Survival, which deals deeper into more interesting themes. That's character based, and it's you get more character work than the entirety of Doctor Who almost. Like, really good way to finish the show. And you know, I don't think we would have a show today if it wasn't this good for the end. And you know,
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a blast.
26 seasons, 696 episodes. Not the worst number to end your show on, you know?
Yeah, it's
almost
pretty
700
successful.
episodes. That's impressive.
Yeah, and although I would have been really interested to see how Doctor Who survived in the 90s. It was such a different era. I definitely, like, we got a glimpse of it in the movie. It would definitely go more grungy, a bit more edgy, you know, a bit more to fit in with that 90s aesthetic a little bit more.
I mean, there is the series of New Adventure books published by Virgin, which started the year after this. Which
that company obviously named after the people that buy the Doctor Who books.
I think it's the same Virgin as Virgin Media, by the way. I'm not entirely sure.
Probably. Yeah.
Like, I don't understand Virgin because they're kind of a forgotten company, but you know, they had like planes. Don't they have planes? What
they
an
have a
insane
space program.
company. Yeah. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is going on with Virgin?
They're owned by a billionaire. I don't remember his name. He's a rich man.
But yeah, I need to get into the books. I'm really interested with the books. There's a lot of crazy shit that goes on in the books, apparently. But I'd be interested in getting the books for sure.
Yeah, something to do at some point. But that is Survival. Next week, we are sticking with Classic Who as we come into the middle part of December. And we are looking at the 4th Doctor story, Robot. We'll be covering this over 2 weeks, and I've never seen this story.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to watching it. Coincidentally, right, this Robot is in the zeitgeist at the minute. I was out with some friends recently, and I was talking with a person I just met that night about Doctor Who, and they were saying to me, they were like, yeah, I was trying to get back into Doctor Who, and I watched Robot the other night, and I was like, holy shit, no way.
Yeah, this is, Survival is Doctor Who almost shot like a film. It's mostly exteriors, it's all single cam mostly. Robot is back into the multicam, slow, dry. But I enjoy Robot. I'm not sure what your opinion will be. We'll find out next week.
We're gonna
I'm
find
looking
out
forward
next
to
week.
it because we are only doing Robot because it is almost the 50th anniversary of Tom Baker being the Doctor, which is
Crazy.
insane to think about. Insane to think that he's still here with us. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, because
Yeah.
we are recording this 2 weeks in advance. So
Yeah.
please, I please, I want them to still be around by the time we finish Robot.
I reckon he probably will be. But
Please,
we can always
please
hope.
don't let
Yeah.
us murder Tom Baker. I don't want blood
Yeah.
on my hands.
But we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Goodbye.
Bye. I don't know why I saluted.